Chapter 263. Hey, that scared me to death. Something big has happened at Mount Yunluo. What's going on? The army has sealed off the area and no one is allowed to approach. The mutant squads are full of killing intent and have dark expressions on their faces. I've heard about it too. It's said that an important character has died and the country is enraged. They want to flatten the mountain and destroy the stronghold. This news spread like wildfire and caused a huge commotion. Just who had died? Everyone was incomparably shocked, and many people began to make guesses as they listed out the names of the people who were responsible. This is too shocking. Rumor has it that the entire mountain was destroyed by interweaving laser beams and missile blasts. What a shocking confrontation! The country has been enraged and is now attacking a certain king-level entity. Some people went to verify the matter, but because they could not get close, they could only ask the townspeople several dozen kilometers away. They came to the conclusion that a huge battle had indeed taken place. Some of the townspeople had personally witnessed the entire mountainous region being flattened by flames and flames. Both at home and abroad were greatly shaken. At present, only the top organizations and the higher-ups of the countries knew about the situation. Because the satellites had captured the images, ordinary people had no idea what was going on. All sorts of discussions erupted like a tide. For a time there were all sorts of speculations. Some people guessed that the Hollow Jade Temple Master had died in battle. That was because the mutant squads belonged to the Hollow Jade Temple. What happened there was definitely related to them. Some said that the Grandmaster from Mount Wudong had been ambushed and killed by the marine race. His blood had splattered all over Mount Yunluo. This was truly a heart-wrenching event. Because they did not understand the situation and didn't know what was going on, all sorts of speculations arose. There were all sorts of rumors, but all of them were similar. It was suspected that a major character had fallen from the human side and had suffered a great loss. Everyone was furious and had resorted to firearms. This is truly depressing. Just who was it that met with misfortune? Everyone wanted to know, but unfortunately they could not find out. While everyone was guessing, some of the beast race members began to sneer. They had heard some rumors that some king-level entities had discussed killing Chu Feng at Mount Yunluo. At that time, it was only a small group of people and was not leaked to the outside world. Now that something like this had happened, a small portion of the beast race members naturally laughed. They felt that they would definitely succeed in killing Chu Feng. That was why the humans were so angry and resorted to firearms. However, so what if they used laser weapons? All king-level entities possessed astonishing divine instincts. They could avoid danger in advance and had nothing to fear. What a bunch of laughable people. You don't even know the inside story, yet you're spouting nonsense. A beast race member couldn't help but step forward to express his opinion. His words were filled with ridicule. A few direct descendants of the royal family stood out. Clearly, these people had heard the discussion in the clan and knew what was going on. There was no need to keep it a secret anymore, because the result of that battle had been decided. Meanwhile, some of the beast races were showing off. They felt that they were the only ones who knew the details and were somewhat arrogant. What exactly happened? If you all know, then tell us. Many people questioned. There's no harm in telling you guys. Demon King Chu has been killed miserably at Mount Yunluo. That place has been sealed off and it has nothing to do with anyone else. He's the one who's dead. A beast race member couldn't help but blurt out the truth. This was, without a doubt, an explosive piece of news that stunned everyone. The human expert who had died on Mount Yunluo was actually Chu Feng. He had disappeared without a trace after killing 10 beast kings that night. Many people had been searching for him. How did he suddenly die on Mount Yunluo? Before this, some people had suspected that he might have met with an accident because he was on the verge of death after the battle that night. But who would have thought that he would really die? Who can tell me how Chu Feng died on Mount Yunluo? Momentarily, it caused a huge uproar. Not to mention the people within the country, even those outside the country were shaken. After the battle at Mount Kunlun and the Vatican, Chu Feng's name had become known in the West. This time, it was actually him who had died. It was impossible not to cause a commotion among the common people. Chu Feng is dead? Impossible. I don't believe he was really killed by the beast race. Doubtlessly, Chu Feng had gone through the baptism of so many battles and was extremely popular. Many people sincerely hoped that nothing bad would happen to him. They were all dumbfounded after hearing the news. He killed 10 beast kings in one night. What a glorious accomplishment! He should have recovered from his injuries and returned with vigor. How did he die so suddenly? Some people found it hard to accept. The eyes of the youths who used to have a good impression of Chu Feng turned red. This was truly unfortunate news. Some of the beast race became even more confident. They pretended to be calm and acted as if they had long known this would happen. Many people could not help but ask for more details. Only then did the beast race slowly reveal the news once more. Let me tell you the truth. Chu Feng died a miserable death. It could be said that he took the initiative to send himself to his death. Needless to say, he was killed by a group of beast kings. When this type of news was released, everyone became stupefied, finding it hard to believe. Nonsense. You beast race people are deliberately making things up. I don't even know if Chu Feng is dead or alive. How could he send himself to his death? You people are purposely mocking him. Many humans were enraged, and their emotions were stirred up. The small group of beast race people who knew the inside story were relatively calm. They laughed coldly and then began to expose the scars of these people, revealing the truth. In truth, the incident at Mount Yunluo was a trap set up specifically to kill Demon King Chu. First, they used his parents as bait. The people were in an uproar after some beast race experts revealed the truth. You people are truly despicable. You actually used such sinister methods just to kill Chu Feng. A beast race forum was about to explode. Countless people were cursing and blaming each other. All of them were furious. It was the same in reality. Countless people were furious that the incident at Mount Yunluo was actually a trap set up to kill Chu Feng. Some beast race experts ridiculed, "We can only say that he brought this upon himself. Who does he think he is? He's delusional enough to flatten a mountain and destroy a stronghold. So what if he touched his parents? He wanted revenge but ended up throwing his life away. How laughable! Does he really think he's unrivaled under the heavens?" These words naturally incited the anger of the people. The humans were burning with anger. Chu Feng was already dead, yet these beast race experts were still mocking him. This was too excessive. What's even more laughable is that you people are delusional enough to use firearms to kill the beast kings and avenge Chu Feng. Don't you know that these weapons are ineffective against king-level experts? Divine instincts can sense danger in advance. Wasting firepower like that is foolish. The crowd was furious and wanted nothing more than to start a war with the beast race. This was intolerable bullying. Not only did they cause Chu Feng's death, they even dared to ridicule and make sarcastic remarks. The clairvoyant, clairaudient, and Yi Qingru couldn't accept this. They couldn't believe it and immediately went to ask Lu Tong. They were truly frightened out of their wits. It can't be. Don't tell me he really couldn't endure this time and died? Xiong Kun, Hu Xing, and the others were astonished. Oh, so this so-called Demon King Chu is actually so weak. I thought we would need our marine race experts to suppress and kill him. Who would have thought he would be beheaded so quickly? The outside world was in an uproar. The sounds of quarreling and ridicule rang out incessantly. As for the main culprit, Chu Feng, he was still at Mount Yunluo. He hadn't left yet to prevent any accidents from happening. He was overseeing things and waiting for the laboratory personnel to transport away the king-level corpses. Brat, you're quite patient. The outside world is in such a mess and you're still not going to show yourself? Lu Tong contacted him. Chu Feng replied calmly, what's the rush? This is a good opportunity to see who's jumping out and which corporations are adding fuel to the fire or rejoicing in my misfortune. We can settle the score with them later. I was just wondering which one to start with. As time went on, the beast race experts who knew the truth and knew that Mount Yunluo was a trap could no longer remain calm because they couldn't contact the group of beast kings. The number of king-level experts who had gone to Mount Yunluo wasn't small, but now they had all disappeared. At this level, ordinary people couldn't even enter their eyes. Only the king-level experts could converse with them and befriend them. Now, those kings who knew the inside story felt their heads swelling. That was because those people had completely disappeared and they couldn't contact them no matter what. These kings had also wanted to go to Mount Yunluo but were unable to do so in the end. Now they felt that something was wrong and were even somewhat afraid. Heavens, could it be that the truth is completely different from what we thought? As time went on, the beast race kings felt their scalps go numb. They felt a chill run down their spines. They decided to send people to investigate. At this time, not to mention them, even some other organizations felt that something was wrong. That was because the images captured by the satellites were already being discussed within a small circle despite not being leaked. Oh, there are actually people who aren't afraid of death and dare to come here to investigate the truth? Within the dilapidated mountain forest, Chu Feng raised his head and sensed a king-level entity in the distance. His figure flickered and disappeared, reappearing in the distant forest. Following which, a ferocious bird seemed to have been startled. It immediately soared thousands of meters into the sky. Its body was huge, at least 20 to 30 meters long. Its entire body was covered in black feathers that resembled dark gold. Each feather was hard and emitting a cold metallic luster. Boom! A figure chased after it. He leapt from a mountain peak and soared 1,200 meters into the air. With a loud bang, he punched out with a resplendent light that enveloped an area of 100 meters. With a puff, the Bird King's body was pierced through. It let out a blood-curdling screech as it fell to the ground. This time, Chu Feng didn't use all his strength. He didn't blow it up and left it half dead. With a boom, the Bird King smashed through a large part of the mountain forest. Its body was drenched in blood. When it saw that person, it was incomparably shocked and then terrified. It's actually you. Does that mean they've all been killed? The Bird King was horrified. If Chu Feng had survived, did that mean that those who had lost contact with him were all dead? Its feathers stood on end in a great fright. As it recalled the rumors in the outside world, it felt extremely upset. The beast race was truly unlucky. Old man, weren't you complaining that all the king-level entities I killed had exploded? Now I'll catch one for you, alive and whole. Chu Feng told Lu Tong. Lu Tong was speechless after hearing this. Although he was happy, he also wanted to say that this brat was too cruel. The Bird King had been captured and hadn't returned for a long time. Those beast kings who knew the inside story were all terrified and felt their hair stand on end. They knew that something big had happened. Perhaps those optimistic guesses from before were about to be overturned. Their clansmen had leaked a lot of information to the outside world, but now it seemed like a joke. The truth was bound to be incomparably cruel. Oh God, don't tell me those kings are all dead. Even though they were all king-level experts, they were still terrified. Amidst the clamor in the outside world, some people who didn't know the truth could no longer hold back. For example, the Peacock race. They didn't know that the Peacock King had retreated without a fight. Now they were laughing coldly. One of them said, "Who can compete with our race's king? He naturally won't be able to live if he personally goes south to kill Demon King Chu." They could be considered to have restrained themselves and didn't say too much. However, the Ash Wolf King's lineage was insolent and immediately jumped out. Demon King Chu is finally dead. How satisfying, haha! This race was quite ostentatious. They hated Chu Feng to the bone because Chu Feng was the one who had killed the Ash Wolf King back then. Oh, this is a good trap. Demon King Chu has come to our door to throw away his life. How wonderful! Actually, if this hadn't happened, we would have killed his parents first before luring him out and ambushing him. The Ash Wolf race was rejoicing in the other's misfortune. They began to spout nonsense after hearing about Chu Feng's death. However, it was at this time that some of the images captured by the satellites began to circulate. The Ash Wolf race immediately shut up. They felt a headache coming on and felt that the situation wasn't looking good. It wasn't just them. The whole world became quiet as the images captured by the satellites began to leak out one after another. This completely overturned everyone's previous guesses. After the hot weapons bombarded them, a person surrounded by light like a deity unleashed a great slaughter, slaughtering kings. This was just too terrifying. Boom. Everyone in the world was shaken. Was this the truth? Everyone was stunned. Following which, one large vehicle after another drove away from Mount Yunluo. At the same time, the Special Mutant Army also left, leaving behind a desolate forest stained with blood. Many beasts and mutants rushed over immediately to verify the truth. The ground was covered in blood, and the entire mountain ridge was in ruins. The Beast King's bones, Bird King's blood-stained feathers, scales, and horns were all left behind. Oh God, the truth is too terrifying! Immediately, these mutants were in an uproar. Additionally, the images captured by the satellites began to circulate, causing a huge commotion. Chapter 264. The battle at Mount Yunluo had resulted in a bloodbath of Beast Kings, and it was very likely that all of them had been killed. This explosive news shocked the entire world. This was completely different from their previous guesses. Everyone was ridiculously wrong, and the news shook every region. The various races were dumbfounded, especially the previously arrogant and conceited Beast Kings. Now, all of them felt a chill run down their spines. Many people couldn't believe it, especially those who were filled with enmity towards Chu Feng. They felt their scalps going numb and their scalps were about to explode. However, the pictures revealed the truth clearly. Not only did the Beast Kings not win, but they were also in miserable states. A human shrouded in radiance was unleashing a massacre. He single-handedly slaughtered the Beast Kings, sweeping through everything before him with his fists, blowing up all the Beast Kings who were heading for Mount Yunluo. It was as though a deity had descended to the mortal world. Not to mention ordinary people, even powerful Beast Kings would feel a chill run down their spines after seeing these terrifying pictures. They felt a sense of helplessness. That was a group of Beast Kings, but they had all been killed by a single person. How terrifying was this? This human was too terrifying. He was like a god, like a demon. His entire body was shrouded in resplendent light as he swept through the Beast Kings. Not a single one of them could stop him. Those Beast Kings were partially correct. Those who died at Mount Yunluo were indeed tortured to death. However, it wasn't Chu Feng who died, but the Beast Kings. That demonic godlike human chased after the Beast Kings and reaped their lives as if he were cutting grass. The images captured by the satellites of the various countries recorded everything. Some of the Beast Kings were blown to smithereens with a single punch. They couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. Some of the Bird Kings flapped their wings in an attempt to escape, but the human leapt thousands of meters into the air and directly caught up to them. Blood splattered everywhere with a single punch. These images were suffocating. Those Beast Kings who knew the inside story stared at the circulating pictures. Their bodies stiffened and they couldn't say a single word. At this point, all they could feel was a deep sense of fear. How could they contend against such an enemy? They couldn't even muster up any thoughts of revenge because they were simply not on the same level. At the same time, they rejoiced from the bottom of their hearts. Fortunately, they hadn't followed Chu Feng to Mount Yunluo. Otherwise, none of them would have survived. Their hearts palpitated as if they had survived a calamity. Some stubborn beast races were unwilling to accept reality. After arriving at Mount Yunluo, all of them were dejected and dejected. King-level blood dyed this ruined land red. Mountain peaks collapsed and the ground cracked several feet wide. It was a scene of desolation. After all kinds of photos of the scene were released, people everywhere were shocked. Even the West was in an uproar. Was he Chu Feng? Everyone was guessing whether or not that heavenly deity-like individual was Chu Feng, because the group of kings came to kill him, waiting for him to come and throw his life away. In the end, those king-level entities had all died on Mount Yunluo. Did this mean that Chu Feng had done all of this? Whether it was in reality or on the internet, it was like a big explosion, endless discussions, completely boiling. Haha, that's great. I knew that immortal Chu wouldn't die. He'll come back strong and kill all his enemies. The happiest and most delighted were a group of hot-blooded youths who had a favorable impression of Chu Feng. When they heard that he had died on Mount Yunluo, some of their eyes even turned red. Now that they heard the news, they were all incomparably excited. Good people will be rewarded. Chu Feng killed the Ash Wolf and fought against the Eastern Punitive Expedition. He lived up to his identity as a mutant. If he was murdered by those beast races, the heavens really are blind. Some people were happy and excited, but naturally there were also those who were terrified. Most of those who had attacked Chu Feng had died, but there were still some who were alive. All of them were horrified. Those who had participated in the attack on Chu Feng felt their scalps go numb. They had a bad premonition. Perhaps he's still alive, but I don't believe that the person who attacked Mount Yunluo was Chu Feng. He's only at 4 severed shackles. How could he go and kill all those beast kings? Some people were unconvinced. They believed that the deity-like expert on Mount Yunluo wasn't Chu Feng, but someone else. That person's entire body was covered in divine splendor, like a great sun in the sky. In the end, no one was able to recognize his appearance even after analyzing all the photos. Despicable! This demon King Chu must have asked the Hollow Jade Temple Master to take action and ambush all those beast kings. How despicable! A beast race member cried out in exasperation. Their king was one of the attackers, but he had died a miserable death on Mount Yunluo. This caused the entire race to be terrified. But very soon, his voice was drowned out by the crowd's attacks. The group of beast kings had gathered together to set up a trap to kill Chu Feng. Now that they had been killed instead, they were blaming others? Not to mention the humans, even many beast races were shaking their heads. They couldn't blame anyone else for the deaths of these beast kings. It was all because they were inferior. Not all beast races were hostile to humans. The vast majority of them could coexist peacefully. Old ancestor, how could you die just like that? Hundreds of years of cultivation, ushering in the great upheaval and becoming a king-level expert, yet you've died just like that. In certain places, many races were panicking. Some were weeping while others were terrified. Without the protection of their king, their future days were destined to be difficult. That was because the great upheaval was imminent. At that time, the fortunes of the famed mountains and great rivers would be divided according to strength. Without their king, they were destined to fall behind the others. It could be said that this battle would cause many of the royal races to decline. Both the East and the West were shaken. The impact of the battle on Mount Yunluo was beyond imagination. It immediately made the headlines of every nation, not to mention the internet. Was that person Chu Feng? This was the only thing that had yet to be confirmed. Who was the main character of this battle that the entire world was paying attention to? Although many people guessed that it was Chu Feng, they also felt that his strength had increased too quickly. It was somewhat unrealistic. Even if he could sever his 5th shackle in a short period of time, he still shouldn't be able to contend against peerless expert. This was the opinion of many people. That was because once he had severed his sixth shackle, things would be completely different. He would be high and mighty, looking down on all the other beast kings. Even if he was only one level lower, it would still be difficult for an expert with 5 severed shackles to contend against a peerless expert. This was the consensus of the experts of every nation. This was indeed the case in the past. Even Yellow Cattle had said that after severed his 6th shackle, he would be completely different. He couldn't be matched by force and could only run when encountering such a person. The first 5 shackles were one stage, and from the 6th onward it was another. There seemed to be a watershed separating them. The Black Yak was so powerful and wild, but even after severed his 5th shackle, he was still no match for peerless experts. However, Chu Feng was different. Several days ago, when he was on the verge of death, he had fused his spiritual energy into his physical body and probed into the profound mysteries of the breathing technique. Moreover, he had always used pollen to evolve and not mutant fruit. This time, he had severed his 5th shackle on his own, causing his combat strength to become ridiculously ferocious. He had broken through the so-called watershed suppression. Be it the beast race or the humans, everyone was puzzled. It was difficult to determine who that person was. Some people believed it was Chu Feng, while others believed it was the Hollow Jade Temple Master. There were even those who believed it was the Wudong Grandmaster who had triggered the ultimate conjecture. I don't believe it's Chu Feng. I'd rather believe it's that ruthless fellow from the roaming Jade Temple. The Ash Wolf King's lineage was initially shocked, but after calming down, they believed it couldn't be Chu Feng. How could his strength rise 2 levels in such a short time? I firmly believe that the new rising expert is Chu Feng. Xiong Kuan, Hu Xing, and the others spoke with incomparable firmness. That's right, it's Demon King Chu. Yi Qingru, Ouyang Qing, Du Huijin, and the others also chimed in. People from all walks of life were discussing this matter in an uproar. Among them, the major corporations were holding emergency meetings to discuss countermeasures. They were worried that something big would happen. Old man, have you found out where the Ash Wolf King's lineage is? I'll start with them. Chu Feng asked Lu Tong. I've found them. They're under the protection of the Peacock race and are currently at Mount Putuo, Lu Tong informed. What? They're actually there? Chu Feng's eyes turned cold as 2 beams of light shot out. Mount Putuo was one of the 4 famed Buddhist mountains. It was also known as the Buddhist Kingdom of the Sea and the Southern Sea Sacred Territory. It was one of the most important Buddhist holy lands. Not long ago, Bodhi Biogenetics had taken over that place. This had caused a huge commotion because it was no ordinary place and should have been quite difficult to conquer. At that time, there were rumors that Bodhi Biogenetics was working together with the beast race to capture the mountain. Now, it seemed that this was indeed the case. The Peacock race was actually residing there and protecting the Ash Wolf King. It was obvious that the Peacock race had a close relationship with Bodhi Biogenetic. If the Peacock King takes action, then the Golden Crow and the 9 Lives Cat will surely help. No wonder they can conquer Mount Putuo, Chu Feng muttered to himself. Previously, when news of Bodhi Biogenetics taking over Mount Putuo spread, the various races were shaken and somewhat incredulous. But now, it seemed that several peerless experts had taken action in addition to Bodhi Biogenetics men and firearms. Everything seemed reasonable. I don't care who they are. I'll ascend Mount Putuo today and settle things there. Let's see who can stop me. Chu Feng's killing intent surged as a terrifying radiance shone within a 100-meter radius. Don't act recklessly, Lu Tong warned. This time, the Ash Wolf King's bloodline has threatened to act against my parents. Also, the Peacock King has crossed the line this time. It would have been fine if he had simply come to kill me and I would have fought him to the death. But he used Mount Yunluo as a prelude to kill my parents to deal with me. All of them will have to bear my wrath. Chu Feng decided to attack. His target was Mount Putuo. He wanted to assume a domineering stance. Even if the Peacock King had touched the reverse scale of his parents, he would still kill his way over and fight to the end. Only after this battle would people understand that his bottom line could never be touched. Mount Putuo was located in the Zhoushan archipelago of Zhejiang. After the great upheavals and the appearance of folded spaces, Hongdu and Mount Putuo were separated by over 7,000 kilometers. The distance between the two places had increased by several times, but this was nothing to Chu Feng. After making his decision, Chu Feng immediately set off at 5 times the speed of sound towards the Zhoushan archipelago. If there was really something fishy going on there, he would fight to the death with Mount Putuo. He could maintain this speed for half an hour like a bolt of lightning streaking across the sky. Nothing along the way could stop him, and the slightest contact would result in an explosion. Most of the time, he could be said to be flying through the air. Every time he leapt, he would cover a distance of 2 to 3 kilometers, causing the air to explode. Half an hour later, his whole body was burning hot, his blood was surging like a river, and all his pores were steaming with white steam. Only then did he slow down. By this time, he had already covered over 3,000 kilometers. We don't believe that person is Madman Chu. Last time, he was surrounded by the Beast Kings and was lucky enough to survive. But now, he wants to kill a group of Beast Kings by himself? Who do you think he is? He doesn't have the ability to become a peerless expert. The Ash Wolf King expressed his opinion. He had no idea that Chu Feng was already on his way to Mount Putuo. Chu Feng advanced at a leisurely pace, allowing his body temperature to drop. He already knew that the Ash Wolf tribe was under the protection of the Peacock King. No wonder they dared to jump out. He sneered. Today, he would begin his slaughter from the tribe under the Peacock King's protection. Chu Feng continued on his way. After resting for half an hour, he increased his speed once again, covering a distance of 2 to 3 kilometers with each leap. He crossed the vast sky at 5 times the speed of sound. He had already entered Zhejiang from Jiangxi and was heading towards the coast. Half an hour later, he had crossed another 3,000 kilometers. Chu Feng was nearing his destination and could see the coast. Finally, he stepped onto a wooden plank and crossed the sea. Chu Feng released his corporeal energy and activated the plank beneath his feet. His clothes fluttered in the wind as he broke through the waves and arrived at the Zhoushan archipelago. He had arrived at his destination. After reaching the shore, he spread out his divine perception and gazed at the distant Buddhist sacred mountain. Very soon, Chu Feng discovered the Ash Wolf tribe. They were indeed here, but they weren't residing on the mountain. Instead, they were residing in a woodland at the foot of the mountain. Chu Feng walked forward step by step. During this process, he circulated his breathing technique to cool down his scalding body and restore his essence, qi, and spirit to their peak state. When he arrived at the foot of the mountain and entered the Ash Wolf tribe's dwelling, his entire body began to glow and become translucent. Who is it? You are within the woodland. Some of the Ash Wolf tribe members discovered Chu Feng. They immediately cried out in alarm and almost collapsed to the ground. Who had they just seen? Demon King Chu. Just a while ago, they were still discussing who would have thought the main character would appear here. The Ash Wolf tribe was alarmed. Giant wolves the size of small mountains rushed out in terror and hatred. This person had killed their king. You want to touch my parents? Chu Feng asked coldly. Chu Feng, don't act recklessly. This is all a misunderstanding, an old wolf said in a trembling voice. There's no misunderstanding, Chu Feng replied. Chu Feng, you should know that we're under the Peacock King's protection. You've already committed a great taboo by barging in here. If you attack us, you'll be crossing the line and will be met with a fatal disaster. Chu Feng said in a deep voice, The Peacock King's protection? I still need to settle things with him. Not to mention you guys, I'm going to ascend Mount Putua today. You guys are just accomplices I'll get rid of in passing. Even the peacock race and the others will have to bear my wrath. Boom. The next moment, Chu Feng erupted with dazzling radiance. He was like a blazing sun in the sky, illuminating everything with divine splendor. It's you. The one who killed the group of kings on Mount Yunluo is really you. The Ash Wolf tribe members cried out in terror. Those characteristics were too obvious. His body was like a great sun, emitting dazzling radiance. This was definitely the mysterious peerless expert everyone was talking about. Thump! With a wave of Chu Feng's hand, a few ferocious wolves that were more than 10 meters long and had their bloody mouths wide open were sent flying into the air. They were torn apart in midair. Facing these vicious wolves, Chu Feng casually slapped them with a wave of his hand. The blazing energy engulfed them like raging waves and sent them flying, splattering their blood all over the forest. The one who killed the group of beast kings on Mount Yunluo is Chu Feng, Demon King Chu. The Ash Wolf tribe members sent out a few blurry photos and wrote down some terrified words. Lord Peacock King, save us! Avenge us! At their level, they had no idea that the Peacock King had personally come to Mount Yunluo and retreated without a fight. The photos and pleas for help spread to the outside world and caused great waves. People discovered that the human in the photos was as resplendent as the sun and illuminated with divine splendor. He was definitely the same peerless expert from Mount Yunluo. Heavens, he really is Chu Feng. The Ash Wolf tribe is being swept away. People finally knew who the person who had killed the group of beast kings was. They were all shaken. The Ash Wolf tribe was facing a great calamity and was about to be settled. Chapter 265. There were over 20 wolves in the forest. Their fur was like metal, gleaming with an icy luster. The teeth in their bloody mouths were as white as daggers. Their eyes were filled with fear and hatred as they retreated continuously. Within moments, the dozen or so wolves that had pounced forward had been slapped to death by Chu Feng without the slightest suspense. The Ash Wolf bloodline could be considered a powerful race. A king had appeared at the beginning of the upheavals, far surpassing many other races. If the Ash Wolf was still alive, he might have severed 4 or 5 shackles by now. Unfortunately, he had followed the Peacock King and followed his orders. He had wreaked havoc on the Yunnan Guizhou Plateau in order to divert the attention of the human experts. In the end, he had died a miserable death and the entire race had declined. Demon King Chu, we'll fight it out with you. You killed our king and reduced our Ash Wolf bloodline to a weak race. You executioner! At this moment, all the mutated wolves were fighting with their lives on the line. They felt that the other party wouldn't show them any mercy. They wouldn't be able to live even if they begged for mercy. Aolo! The pack of wolves howled with incomparable malevolence. Their bloody mouths glowed as beams of light flew out to attack Chu Feng, bringing with them a foul stench. The wolf race was inherently bloodthirsty. Now that they were fighting with their lives on the line, they didn't care about anything else. Even if they were facing a king, they would still fight to the death. Unfortunately, they had no chance at all. The disparity was too great. Even if Chu Feng were to stand there and let them tear at him, they wouldn't be able to shake him. The Ash Wolf massacred the city and killed 700,000 people. How dare you call me an executioner? Chu Feng's words were calm as he shot out a scarlet flying knife. He didn't want to waste any more time. With a swoosh, a scarlet flood dragon danced in the air and slashed at the wolves. The mutated wolves were all killed. There were no old or sick people here. All of them were mutated experts of the wolf race. Chu Feng walked out of the forest and headed towards the main peak of Mount Putua. The place had changed greatly. The vegetation was lush and emitting strands of dense spiritual energy. The biggest change was that the entire island had expanded by who knew how many times. After a long walk, he finally arrived at the main peak of Mount Putuo. A cool breeze blew past, and the green bamboos on the mountain swayed, producing a rustling sound. There was also the leisurely ringing of a bronze bell coming from the temple, causing one's heart to calm down. Chu Feng walked up the stairs and began to climb the mountain. In the past, Mount Putuo was less than 300 meters tall. Even if it wasn't the shortest mountain in the world, it wasn't far from it. Presently, the entire mountain was extremely majestic. It was almost 10,000 meters in height, powerful and lofty, and the peak of the mountain flowed with golden light, causing it to seem as if the light of Buddha illuminated the world. Is this its original appearance? Chu Feng sighed. From a height of less than 300 meters, he rose steeply from the ground, strand after strand of propitious energy. It could be said that the world was turning upside down. The mountain was covered in green pines and emerald cypresses, bamboo forests everywhere, full of vitality. A few ancient temples were hidden within the sea of bamboo. Even though they were damaged, they still possessed a divine aura. It was indeed different, completely different from before. The stone steps on the mountain seemed to have been carved out in ancient times, carrying with them the aura of time. It was not something that the 300-meter-high Mount Putuo of the past possessed. Clang, the long and drawn-out sound of the bell was so deafening that it made people feel like they were about to comprehend the Tao. Halfway up the mountain, there was a bronze pavilion. There was a large bell suspended inside, and it was actually ringing loudly. Chu Feng was astonished. He walked closer and examined the bell from top to bottom. He was sure that it was not a magical weapon, but an ancient bell. He climbed up another 1,000 meters and saw many buildings. Some were ancient temples, and some were villas built by modern people. Most of them were newly built. Bodhi biogenetics sure moves fast. Chu Feng arrived at the area and saw many people busily working on the villa area. At first, no one paid attention to him. Chu Feng walked straight towards the ancient temple. Here, he saw some mutant trees that had already bloomed and borne fruit. They had long since been plucked. Halt! Who are you? Someone walked out from the ancient temple and stopped him from entering. Tourists, are we not allowed to climb the mountain? Chu Feng asked with a smile. You're Chu Feng. That person was shocked. Although the Ashwolf tribe had spread the news, not everyone was paying attention to the internet. Especially since it was very busy here, no one paid attention to it. Wasn't it said that you were gravely injured and on the verge of death? How come you're here? The mutants within the ancient temple were all astonished. The first thing they wanted to do was report to the people at the summit. What was Demon King Chu doing here? Thump. Within moments, the communicators in the mutants' hands were shattered. Chu Feng waved his hand lightly, and the mutants who had discovered him immediately fainted and collapsed to the ground. He traversed through the ancient temple and dug up the soil at the roots of some mutant trees to see if they were suitable for planting the seeds in the stone box. In the end, he could only sigh. The quality of the soil was not high enough. Mount Putuo was 10,000 meters tall. Now that he had only climbed 6,000 meters, he felt that there was still hope for the summit. Swoosh! Chu Feng increased his speed and rushed upwards. In the blink of an eye, he was already close to the summit. This area was filled with purple bamboo. The terrain was open, and the bamboo forest was swaying back and forth amidst the dense spiritual energy. There really is a lush purple bamboo forest. Chu Feng was astonished. He then turned around and gazed down the mountain. The jade sea connected to the sky and was incomparably majestic. The sunlight fell upon the surface of the sea, speckled with golden fragments. Especially after arriving here, he could clearly hear the solemn and divine chanting from the summit. It was as if he had arrived at a Buddhist country. Chu Feng revealed an odd expression. According to legend, Mount Putuo is the Buddhist temple of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Look at the jade sea suffused with golden light and the purple bamboo forest flowing with spiritual energy. It's quite artistic. In ancient times, there was a super-evolved being who left behind all kinds of legends and eventually became a powerful being. The scenery here was beautiful, but Bodhi biogenetics didn't recklessly touch the purple bamboo forest. It was as if they were afraid of it and didn't build villas here. The lush purple bamboo made one's imagination run wild. Bodhisattva, Southern Sea purple bamboo forest. These legends were well known. Chu Feng searched here. After a while, his heart stirred. He followed the bluestone path and slowly climbed up the mountain. Not long after, he saw a pavilion in the forest and a beautiful figure holding a Buddhist scripture. Her black hair was like a waterfall, her back was graceful, and her figure was perfect. The lush purple bamboo forest was suffused with a faint multicolored mist. It was like a fairyland. Seeing such a person made one's imagination run wild. Chu Feng didn't deliberately lighten his footstep. He directly walked over and looked at this ethereal figure. There was a stone table in the pavilion, and a cup of green tea was floating in the air. The Buddhist scripture was modeled with an ancient intent. It had long since turned yellow and looked like an ancient object from hundreds or thousands of years ago. It was held in a pure white hand and had a different kind of charm. As if she sensed something, the lady turned around. Her black hair danced in the wind, carrying a sparkling luster. She had an oval face and a lustrous complexion. Her black eyebrows were curved, and her eyes were like obsidian, full of spirituality. It could be said that her entire face was perfect without a single flaw. Originally, she was very quiet, reading the Buddhist scripture with an ethereal charm. But now she was very surprised. Her bright red lips parted, revealing her pearly white teeth. Her beautiful eyes instantly widened as she looked at Chu Feng, as if she had been shocked. "Why are you here?" she cried out. "To come and spank your Bodhi biogenetics," Chu Feng replied. The lady stood up, her figure even more beautiful and graceful. Behind her was the purple bamboo forest. Spiritual energy curled up in spirals, blending in with the scenery. It was like a poem or a painting. Chu Feng revealed a strange expression. He naturally recognized the lady in front of him, but her temperament was very different from before. In the past, Jiang Luoshan was very beautiful. There was no doubt about her beauty. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been called the national goddess. But there was also a hint of charm in her beauty. Especially after she became a mutant and awakened, it was rumored that she had obtained some special abilities of the nine-tailed white fox. Hence, she became even more charming and incomparably beautiful. But now, she actually possessed an otherworldly temperament. With a Buddhist scripture in her hand, she was like a transcendent Buddhist maiden. Unfortunately, this temperament didn't last long. After seeing Chu Feng, it quickly disappeared. She frowned and said with wide eyes, "Rumor has it that you were injured and disappeared for many days. So it turns out you're hiding on Mount Putua." It was as if the two were born to be at odds. "Have you been isolated from the world for so many days that you don't know that the outside world has been turned upside down?" Chu Feng laughed and said, "I took the initiative to come to your door, not to hide. Don't tell me you want to rob Mount Putua?" Jiang Luoshan rolled her eyes. "I advise you to leave as soon as possible. It's very dangerous up there." "Ha, isn't it just colluding with the beast race? Is there a bird monarch overseeing things? If he comes back, I'll kill him." Chu Feng laughed indifferently. "You?" Jiang Luoshan was astonished. Chu Feng revealed a cold expression. "To tell you the truth, I'm here to settle accounts. Bodhi biogenetics had better not have done anything in the dark. Otherwise, you'll be kicked down the mountain today." "Demon King Chu, what nonsense are you spouting?" Jiang Luoshan was dissatisfied and puzzled. She felt that the other party wasn't joking. But Chu Feng walked up the mountain. As he passed by, he gave Jiang Luoshan a slap. The sound was crisp and clear. Of course, it wasn't a slap to the face but rather caused her buttocks to tremble 3 times. "You!" She was furious. Her ethereal temperament had been completely destroyed. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws, wanting to pounce on him. I'm telling you not to shout at a king-level expert. At the same time, I also want to tell you that although we're friends, if Bodhi Biogenetics is scheming against me, don't blame me for not recognizing my own family and destroying this financial group. Chu Feng said calmly without the slightest sign of danger. But at this moment, Jiang Luoshan believed him. Her intuition told her that Demon King Chu wasn't lying. He had come with killing intent. What exactly happened to you? Why do you think Bodhi Biogenetics is scheming against you? Jiang Luoshan calmed herself down and explained, Yes, the Peacock clan is indeed here. They helped us take down Mount Putuo, but we definitely didn't collude with them to harm you. What you say doesn't count. Chu Feng climbed the mountain at a steady pace. Every step he took covered a distance of several hundred meters. Jiang Luoshan was shaken. Her beautiful face revealed a shocked expression. She was uncertain. Could it be that those old geezers from Bodhi Biogenetics were involved in the conspiracy against Chu Feng? The next moment, she ran up the mountain in pursuit. Her long legs moved rapidly, but she could only see Chu Feng's back. His steps were slow but extremely fast. Mount Putuo's 10,000-meter summit was enshrouded in resplendent golden radiance and flowing purple qi. Numerous ancient temples stood amidst the bamboo forest. Buddhist chants could be heard coming from thousands of years ago. Chu Feng held his hands behind his back as he gazed at the majestic Buddhist temple. In front of an ancient building, there was a Bodhi tree as thick as a water tank. Its old bark was cracked and its leaves were faintly golden. Very good. The ancient tree in front of the 1,000-year-old temple has just sprouted and its leaves have yet to form a flower bud. Chu Feng's eyes were sparkling with divine light. This ancient temple and Bodhi tree naturally didn't belong to Mount Putuo. Now, the mountain was tens of thousands of meters tall. Golden radiance was accompanied by purple mist and flowing Buddhist radiance. It was incomparably divine. Normally, there should be ice and snow at such a high altitude, but this place was warm and full of vitality. This is the Bodhi sanctuary of a supreme evolved being from ancient times. Perhaps there's something extraordinary left behind. Chu Feng sized it up. In truth, Chu Feng didn't conceal his aura after ascending the mountain, alarming everyone. Only at this time did Jiang Luoshan catch up. She was panting heavily, unable to keep up with a peerless expert's pace. Her fair face was drenched in sweat. Amit Ba, a 100-year-old monk with pale golden skin and a withered body draped in a monastic robe, appeared in front of Chu Feng like a golden arhat. He was inconceivably fast and suddenly appeared before Chu Feng like a bolt of lightning. Monk, stand back. I'll settle things with the Peacock tribe first. Bodhi Biogenetics will deal with them later. Chu Feng still had his hands behind his back. Even in the face of this unfathomably powerful golden monk, he didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. Chu Feng looked at the ancient temple in another direction. He could feel the aura of the Peacock lineage, but there weren't many of them. With a creak, the temple door was pushed open and a few people walked out. All of them were experts of the Peacock tribe. They were all very handsome. It was as if this tribe had been blessed by the heavens. Once in human form, each of them was a beauty with fluttering purple hair and exquisite facial features. Chu Feng, how dare you trespass into our tribe's territory? A peerlessly beautiful man from the Peacock tribe spoke. He looked to be in his 20s and possessed extraordinary strength. He had actually reached the quasi-king realm. As the world changed and time flowed, the number of experts from this tribe would only increase. You're speaking too lightly. I'm here to kill. Chu Feng glared at them. Our tribe's king is known to be invincible. If you act recklessly, he won't let you go. If you have the ability, you can fight a decisive battle with our peerless king, said the young quasi-king. Chu Feng calmly replied, I wanted to, but he ran away. And this time, he's crossed the line. He actually dared to use my parents to cause trouble and endanger my family. I'm here to kill his tribe." "You dare?" An extremely beautiful woman from the Peacock tribe shouted. Her purple hair danced in the wind, and her pure white face was filled with anger and frost. As a member of the Peacock tribe, she had always been arrogant. Normally, no one dared to provoke her. She was used to being arrogant. "It's not like I haven't killed before. Why wouldn't I dare? And since you dare to talk to me like this, I'll start with you." Chu Feng stood in place and directly swung his fist. Bang! It was as if a great golden sun had exploded. That fist imprint was too terrifying. It carried with it a majestic energy as it blasted forward. "You!" The Peacock tribe members' expressions changed. The beautiful purple-haired woman wanted to escape. She was at least at the 9th level of the awakened realm and was quite extraordinary, but she simply couldn't evade. She had just rushed into the air when she was struck by the resplendent fist imprint. With a puff, she was sent flying and disintegrated on the spot. There was no way she could survive. "Demon King Chu, how could you do this? Aren't you afraid of our peerless king's revenge?" A man from the Peacock tribe berated loudly with red eyes. "Let him come find me. I'm just afraid he won't dare to come. Touching my family is equivalent to touching my reverse scale. I'll give him a taste of his own medicine," Chu Feng said coldly. "Leave quickly." Someone shouted in a low voice, telling the people around him to retreat. They were extremely resentful. No one had ever dared to behave atrociously in the Peacock tribe, but this demon King Chu actually wanted to start a massacre. "Who dares leave?" Chu Feng coldly stared at them. "Chi!" The red-eyed man soared into the air, wanting to spread his wings and leave. "Let's go too," the others whispered. They felt that they would all be killed if they didn't leave. "Tut!" Chu Feng let out a loud roar. This was a terrifying sound wave technique that combined the demon flood dragon roar and the demon ox roar. His whole body glowed like a terrifying sun as golden ripples spread out from his mouth. The sound was extremely terrifying, shaking the mountains and rivers and causing the earth to tremble. The man from the Peacock tribe who was flying in the air actually exploded into a mist of blood. Chu Feng stood in place without moving. Under his roar, the entire mountain peak trembled. He had actually killed a Peacock tribe expert with a single roar. Ah, in the distance, a woman from the Peacock tribe screamed. She was so scared that her face was drained of blood. Ba! The 100-year-old monk's body flowed with golden light. His heart was greatly shaken. This was even more terrifying than the Buddhist lion's roar. Many mutants from Bodhi biogenetics were present. After seeing this scene, all of them were dumbfounded. Their souls were trembling, and they sighed in admiration. As expected of Demon King Chu, they were all extremely afraid. Chapter 266. With this roar, the mountain peak trembled and the purple bamboo forest rustled. Leaves rustled as the peacock race expert disintegrated in midair. Chu Feng's body seemed to be covered in a robe woven from the radiance of the sun. It was so radiant that one would feel a piercing pain if they looked directly at him. "Chu Feng, please stop." The remaining peacock race experts were all pale. Just now, the golden ripples from Chu Feng's mouth had rushed into the air and were not aimed at them. Even so, they almost fell to the ground, their bodies trembling out of instinct. Chu Feng stopped and looked at them calmly, but they still felt an unbearable pressure. It was as if they were facing a calm demonic god. "Our race's king did not touch your parent. He just happened to arrive at Mount Yunluo and did not harm your family," the young peacock race quasi-king said with a pale complexion. "Just happened to arrive? That's easy for you to say. The people of Mount Yunluo used my parents as bait to set up a trap. The peacock king's appearance is enough." Chu Feng raised his right hand, which was emitting a sparkling luster, and was about to slap forward. In an instant, the mountain peak trembled with an incomparably stifling pressure. If you're still a character and can be considered an upright hero, then go and fight with my race's king. Of course, you have to be confident enough. The quasi-king of the peacock race braced himself and spoke calmly. He knew that there was no way he could escape unless this demon king stopped himself. Filial piety is the most important of all virtues. I'm a very kind person and will not allow anyone to target my parents. What upright hero? That's all for now. You're clearly trying to goad me into action. Are you courting death? Or are you courting death? Chu Feng's expression was indifferent. Without any hesitation, he raised his crystalline palm and pressed forward. With a bang, the quasi-king was sent flying with blood spurting out of his mouth. He was dead on the spot. The remaining peacock race experts felt like their scalps were about to explode. They were shocked, angry, and afraid. This person was determined to destroy them. Behind them, the people from Bodhi Biogenetics revealed strange expressions. This demon king claimed to be kind, but he had killed with a raise of his hand. Divine monk, save us. The few remaining members of the Peacock clan did not dare to spread their wings and flee. They looked at the skinny old monk with pale golden skin. The old monk was over 100 years old and was known as one of the successors of Buddha. He was the strongest king of Bodhi Biogenetic. Amitabha. The old monk chanted the name of Buddha, and the pale golden light on his body gradually grew brighter. Chu Feng turned back and looked at the old monk. Someone touched my parents. I'm here to resolve the problem. If you stop me, you'll be declaring war on me. The old monk had a merciful heart, but if he really tried to stop this demon king, he would incur the wrath of this demon king, and all the mutants in Bodhi Biogenetics would be buried with him. He understood Chu Feng's intentions. Even though he knew that the Peacock King was not to be trifled with and was known to be invincible, he still wanted to kill his clansmen to serve as a warning to others. The old monk knew that if Chu Feng could suppress and kill the Peacock King in a domineering manner this time and endure the Peacock King's wrath, no one would dare to touch his family in the future. Such a demon king would even kill the clansmen of the invincible Peacock King in a fit of rage. Who wouldn't be afraid? King Chu, you're too tyrannical. Another majestic ancient temple opened up and two people walked out from the courtyard. The one who spoke was a black-haired man with a pair of demonic eyes that seemed to be shrouded in a layer of black mist. His entire body was also clad in black. Beside him was a lady with light golden hair, emerald eyes, and furry ears. She looked like a cat demoness. Chu Feng saw the two and guessed that they were clansmen of the Golden Crow and the Nine Lives Cat. He glanced at the two indifferently and then attacked the remaining three experts of the Peacock race. With a boom, he punched out with surging divine light that enveloped an area of 100 meters. Thump, thump, thump. The last three flew out like rags. They were filled with hatred and unwillingness as they ended their lives. The scene was deathly silent. Chu Feng said coldly, "What do you mean by tyrannical?" Back then, the Peacock race had sent a continuous stream of experts to Shuntian to kill me. When I first arrived at Mount Kunlun, they also asked the Woodpecker King to kill me. They wanted to kill me just because I didn't bow and scrape to them. This is tyrannical. Today, I've come to settle this grudge with the Peacock King. If you think I'm tyrannical, that's fine too. The black-robed man was indeed a clansman of the Golden Crow, but he was still far from possessing the Golden Crow bloodline. It was just that his crow had transformed into a human form and was now a quasi-king. His eyes were cold as he said, "King Chu, you can be considered an expert of your region. However, your actions are too unbridled. You should know that no one is truly invincible." Chu Feng replied, "Although the Golden Crow came down from Mount Tai to attack me, he didn't target my parents. That's why I won't target your race even though I've come to Mount Putua. If you want to kill someone, go kill your king. You're on your own." After hearing these words, even the old monk from Bodhi Biogenetics put his palms together and chanted. Chu Feng was too domineering. Even the Golden Crow was his target. As for the mutants, there was no need to even mention them. Their hearts were pounding, and none of them wanted to become enemies with this demonic godlike man. The black-robed man's eyes were cold. He felt sullen after seeing the peacock race die in front of him, but he didn't dare to stop them. He directly called out Chu Feng's name and coldly said, "Chu Feng, you should know that the Golden Crow, the Peacock King, and the 9 Lives Cat are of the same branch. If you dare act so tyrannically today, be careful of retribution in the future." Chu Feng suddenly turned back and glared at him with an intimidating aura. "I've said that I won't target the Golden Crow tribe this time, but this isn't a promise or a protective talisman. A mere quasi-king dares to threaten me with such impudence? You're courting death." Thump! Chu Feng formed a fist seal and smashed forward. "You ah!" the black-robed man cried out in an attempt to escape. He had just transformed into a crow and was about to soar into the sky when he was struck down once again. His eyes were filled with fear and regret. His eyes gradually lost focus as the crow's body was torn to pieces. Some of the blood landed on the golden-haired lady from the cat race. This caused her to shriek and rapidly retreat, afraid that Chu Feng would kill her as well. In front of the 1,000-year-old temple, the sound of bells and Buddhist chanting could be heard. However, it was difficult to conceal the austere atmosphere of the place. Chu Feng strode toward the peacock race's gathering place. Behind the ancient temple was a purple bamboo forest enshrouded in dense spiritual energy. It was a suitable habitat for birds. However, this place had long since been deserted except for the few peacocks from before. The rest had long since fled. Chu Feng didn't say anything. Doing this much was enough to show his attitude. If he were to completely destroy their race before killing the Peacock King, the latter would surely go berserk and seek revenge regardless of the price. Chu Feng turned around and faced the people from Bodhi Biogenetic. He then looked at the old monk and said, "I want to know if Bodhi Biogenetics was involved in the process of me being surrounded and killed by a group of beast kings." The aura of a peerless expert permeated the air, causing all the mutants in the vicinity to tremble and almost collapse to the ground. At this time, Jiang Luotian was also pale and restless. This was the first time she had sensed the might and terror of this familiar person. He had even killed the Peacock King and the Golden Crow's clansmen as he pleased. Why wouldn't he dare? Jiang Luotian wanted to say something, but her red lips were slightly parted and she didn't say anything. She suspected that if she were to step forward and say anything, she might also be killed by a single punch. Bodhi Biogenetics didn't attack Benefactor. "It's a pity we couldn't rescue you," the old monk said calmly. Chu Feng felt the murderous aura on his body dissipate quite a bit in the face of this Sakyamuni disciple, a golden monk over 100 years old. This surprised him. "If Benefactor doesn't believe me, this old monk can open up his sea of consciousness and let you judge." The spiritual domain of a king-level entity wasn't easy to probe. If the host wasn't willing, it would be difficult for others to break through. The old monk's calmness and willingness to fully open up his sea of consciousness moved Chu Feng. He extended a finger that was emitting a lustrous luster as he pointed at the forehead of the Buddha's disciple. The old monk's expression was calm as he smiled calmly without evading. Just as he was about to touch the old monk's forehead, Chu Feng withdrew his finger and said, "I believe in the Reverend." He was certain that this was the first time he had met the old monk. This Buddha's disciple wasn't among those who had surrounded him. It was just that he didn't know if Bodhi Biogenetics had other hidden experts. Chu Feng had a good impression of the old monk, and thus didn't make things difficult for him. "Are there any high-ranking members of Bodhi Biogenetics here?" Chu Feng asked the mutants. He didn't have a good impression of those in charge of the major corporations. These corporations were even more ruthless than the beast race when they surrounded and hunted him in Jiangxi. "Yes," someone finally replied. It was actually Jiang Luotian. This was somewhat out of Chu Feng's expectations. Finally, A number of old men were invited over. Chu Feng didn't hold back and pointed at their foreheads with a glowing finger. The old men's expressions were extremely unsightly, but they cooperated nonetheless. Chu Feng hypnotized them and probed their subconscious to see if there were any who were trying to harm him. In the end, Chu Feng didn't discover anything and apologized to them. "I'll trust Bodhi biogenetics for the time being." These words caused everyone to feel complicated. However, many mutants finally heaved a sigh of relief. They were truly afraid that the higher-ups had targeted Chu Feng. If they were found out, Demon King Chu would definitely start a massacre and wash Bodhi biogenetics in blood. However, they also understood that Chu Feng didn't completely trust Bodhi biogenetic. He didn't have a good impression of them after being hunted by the corporations. There was an ancient temple at the top of the mountain. Every brick and tile exuded an ancient aura and was engraved with traces of the passage of time. It was as if it had experienced the vicissitudes of time. It was old and could collapse at any moment, but it was the center of the entire building district. Chu Feng stood within the temple and gazed at the divine statue. He stood there for a long time without moving. Under the setting sun, there was a bronze hall beside the ancient temple. A large bell was suspended within it, ringing in a long and drawn-out manner. Chu Feng finally walked out, and amidst the red glow of the setting sun, he slowly strolled through the ancient temple. He was exceptionally tranquil, and his state of mind was peaceful without joy or worry. He had temporarily let go of everything and cleansed the last strand of baleful intent in his heart amidst the sound of the bell. He sighed softly. His killing intent had been too heavy during the past 2 days. He had traversed tens of thousands of kilometers, killed Hating, killed a group of beast kings, destroyed the Ashwolf tribe, and slaughtered the Peacock tribe. Only now did he finally calm down. Within the temple, he listened to the chanting of sutras and listened to the sound of the ancient bell. It cleansed his mind and cleansed all the baleful intent. He pondered carefully. Ever since he started practicing the Xingyi fist, he had been focused on honing his fist intent and killing enemies in all directions. This caused his killing intent to accumulate and flourish. "It seems I need to be careful. I'll still kill the enemies and leave after I'm done, but I can't let the baleful intent linger in my body for too long," Chu Feng whispered. He had realized this problem. He could devour the world with his killing intent, but he had to maintain a calm and peaceful state of mind. Otherwise, he would truly look like a demon. Taiji doesn't go out for 10 years, Xingyi kills people in 1 year. It makes sense. Chu Feng pondered. He felt that the recent increase in killing intent might have something to do with the fist technique he was practicing. Xingyi fist was born to kill. In the sunset, the golden-bodied monk slowly walked over. His title was Qian Jia. He was the senior brother of Qian Yi, the disciple of Sakyamuni Buddha who fought against the white snake at Mount Taihang. "I have the golden Arhat breathing technique." Under the setting sun, Qian Jia's body glowed like a real golden Arhat. His face was solemn and dignified as he put his palms together. Chu Feng was surprised. Why did the old monk want to talk to him about this? Soon, he understood. Qian Jia was inviting him to join Bodhi biogenetic. If Chu Feng was willing to join Mount Putuo, he would be able to obtain the golden Arhat breathing technique. Chu Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This old monk looked kind and benevolent. How did he come up with such an idea? Asking him to shave and become a monk? "Master Qian Jia, I'm still young. I still want to live a carefree life in this colorful world for another 500 years. I don't want to become a monk." Amitba. Qian Jia chanted Buddhist mantras and scanned the surroundings with his divine sense. He then whispered that he had sensed the Buddhist aura from Chu Feng's body. He wanted to know if the breathing technique he had mastered had anything to do with Buddhism. Qian Jia bluntly said that the world was changing. Creatures from other realms would eventually descend. If Chu Feng had mastered the Bodhisattva-level breathing technique, he would have a great fortune. He might even be taken away to another world to cultivate supreme techniques in the Buddhist Holy Land. The premise was that Chu Feng had to convert to Buddhism. Qian Jia would be willing to guide him and explain the scriptures to him every day to build his foundation. Chu Feng was unmoved after hearing this. Creatures from other realms were risking their lives to descend to this world. What reason did he have to leave? There are sacred trees and fortunes on earth, but they lack the scriptures. What we have now is too simple and crude. In the end, we will need to enter other realms to obtain the scriptures, Qian Jia said. Chu Feng was moved. He had heard from Yellow Cattle that the glory of the other realms was extremely resplendent. Divine suns moved unhindered, fairies filled the skies, and bodhisattvas shook the world. It was a place people yearned for. If there was a chance, he would definitely go and take a look. Chu Feng said, "I'll think about it after I've searched through the famed mountains and great rivers." The old monk was speechless. This benefactor was truly greedy. "All right, the peacock race's territory will be mine from now on. I'll also have a share of Mount Putu," Chu Feng said. Qian Jia was speechless. Why was this person acting like a bandit? He even wanted to lure him into Buddhism. Given his temperament, it was truly inappropriate. Chu Feng had cut off his evil tendencies and was now at peace. Naturally, he was in a good mood. Next, he searched the entire mountain peak and dug under the thick Bodhi tree. This truly frightened many people from Bodhi biogenetic. "Chu Feng, you want to dig away this ancient tree?" Jiang Luoshan's appearance made her quite uncomfortable. She didn't care much in the past, but after witnessing his slaughter today, she didn't dare to tease him anymore. "I'm just taking a look." Chu Feng got up. Just now, he saw that the ground was covered in three-colored soil similar to that of Mount Tai. It should have no effect on the seed. He needed time to wait for Mount Putua to fully recover and its spiritual energy to flourish. Only then would he be able to plant the seed in the stone box. "Don't tell me Mount Putua only has this little fortune?" Chu Feng asked. Both the pilgrimage grounds and Mount Kunlun had been occupied by the various kings, but there were even more mysterious areas that they couldn't enter. Mount Longhu was also abnormally dangerous. "It's over there." Qian Jia pointed at the back of the mountain. Chu Feng was astonished. "We can only catch a glimpse of it at sunrise and sunset," Qian Jia said. Under the setting sun, Chu Feng could vaguely see an even more majestic mountain behind Mount Putu. He could only see its silhouette, but he couldn't see what was on it. "Can't we climb it?" Chu Feng asked. "We can't." The old monk shook his head. The mysterious mountain vanished before the setting sun, but at this time, specks of golden light sprinkled down. The old monk exhaled softly as he breathed in and out the world's essence energy. He did his best to receive the golden light. Seeing this, Chu Feng also attempted to receive it. In the end, a golden Bodhi leaf flew over, brimming with vitality. It landed in Chu Feng's hand, stained with a strand of blood. "What's going on?" He was astonished. Qian Jia was also greatly moved. "I've received a few golden Bodhi leaves before, but I've never seen any blood." "How interesting." Chu Feng stared at the void. Was there a creature on that mountain sending news to the outside world? A multitude of thoughts ran through his mind. If the world changed once more and such a mountain appeared, it would be hard to say if it was a fortune or something else. In the blink of an eye, Chu Feng became alert. All along, everyone had been looking forward to another upheaval in the heaven and earth, hoping that it would come sooner. They were waiting for the opportunity to fight over the even more astonishing divine fruit. No one had ever thought about the bad side. There might be killing intent hidden within. "Snow? It's snowing." Chu Feng raised his head in astonishment. Large snowflakes fluttered down from the sky, soon covering the summit in a silvery white. What was going on? Ever since the world changed, no matter the season, every land had been as warm as spring and full of vitality. There were no longer cold winters. But this evening, such a strange thing had happened. Chapter 267. The entire Mount Putuo was covered in a vast expanse of whiteness. The 1,000-year-old temple and the purple bamboo forest were all covered in snow. In the blink of an eye, the entire mountain was sealed in ice and snow. This kind of change had never happened in 1,000 years. It was simply too bizarre. Chu Feng stood atop the mountain and gazed at the sky. He then scanned the surroundings to see if there were any other changes. Qian Jia was standing beside him. The old monk's expression was solemn. He, too, hadn't expected that the time for the upheavals would arrive so suddenly. Jiang Luoshan was also here in her white robes. She was somewhat apprehensive, not knowing what would happen to this world after the upheavals. Would it still be the Earth she was familiar with? Everything had evolved since the last upheaval. From birds to ferocious beasts, all of them had developed intelligence. Many races were now on equal footing with humans. What about this time? No one knew what would happen. Only an area of several dozen kilometers has been covered in ice and snow. There's nothing in the distance, Chu Feng replied. Benefactor's divine instincts are sharp. This old monk is ashamed of his inferiority. Qian Jia sighed. They were both experts with 5 severed shackles, yet he was inferior. Jiang Luoshan left hurriedly to retrieve her communicator. She wanted to investigate in detail. Recently, she had been playing the zither and reading the golden scriptures. She was isolated from the outside world and didn't even bring her communicator with her. She was undergoing a type of cultivation. Chu Feng lowered his head and looked at the blood-stained golden Bodhi leaf in his hand. He gazed into the distance, wanting to see if that mountain would reappear after the upheavals. He could vaguely hear some sounds like the roars of beasts and humans. They came from the direction of the disappeared mountain. Great Master! At this time, several high-ranking members of Bodhi Biogenetics rushed over anxiously. They found Qian Jia and asked if the upheavals had begun. Following which, they glanced at Chu Feng. One of them spoke, Mr. Chu. The old men wanted to ask Chu Feng to stay here and oversee Mount Putuo. They were uncertain about the sudden upheaval. They were high-ranking members and could barely be considered core members. They had already spoken to the decision-makers at Bodhi Biogenetics, and all of them felt that the future was unpredictable. Moreover, Chu Feng was on Mount Putuo. It would be much safer if he stayed and asked him to oversee the mountain. Chu Feng's expression was calm. He didn't say anything. Why should he stay here and help them guard Mount Putuo? After the upheavals, all of the fortunes here can be shared with Mr. Chu, an elder said. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily fortune. Chu Feng pointed at the Bodhi tree that was as thick as a water tank. It was also the only divine tree on the mountain that was sprouting. Its unfurled leaves were shrinking. Not only did they stop growing normally and lose their luster, the leaves were actually growing in reverse, shrinking into tender buds that were rather dim. The expressions of the elders changed, becoming incomparably unsightly. They ordered for 2 botanists to be brought over. It was clear that they had been very attentive ever since they occupied this place, bringing over a few related professionals. Reverse growth. This kind of plant is incomprehensible. The 2 botanists were having a headache. They couldn't figure it out at all. Mount Longhu is covered in silver. Mount Kunlun is covered in a vast expanse of white. Mount Zhongnan is covered in a thick layer of snow. It wasn't a large-scale snowfall. Only a few special famous mountains experienced blizzards and were frozen. The sky darkened and the weather grew colder. Snowflakes continued to fall, and the accumulated snow on Mount Putuo was half a man tall. Very soon, detailed news came from Bodhi Biogenetic. Only the famous mountains and great rivers are snowing. No other places. At night, a few elders wanted to invite Chu Feng to a banquet, but he declined. He didn't want to have anything to do with them. Chu Feng took the initiative to invite Qian Jia. Unfortunately, The old monk's face darkened when he offered to eat the flood serpent meat hot pot. Master, the meat and the wine pass through the intestines, while the Buddha sits in the heart. You shouldn't see the meat as meat and the wine as wine. Why be so fixated on appearances? Chu Feng smiled. The meat is still meat and the wine is still wine. This is the essence. Qian Jia put his palms together and slowly left the room. In the copper hot pot, the flood serpent meat was boiling, emitting a unique fragrance. There were also thin slices of the sheep king's leg meat, sparkling like coral, and the turtledove king's wing meat. The cold was coming and the snow was falling like goose feathers. Eating a hot pot like this was an indescribable pleasure for a foodie. The elders from Bodhi Biogenetics ordered someone to bring him a bottle of good wine, so that Chu Feng could enjoy the meal to his heart's content. Jiang Luotian came to the door, her mood somewhat complicated. She didn't think much of it when she teased Chu Feng before, but now she had some misgivings. Bang! Finally, she threw down the Buddhist scripture and pushed the door open. She had regained her confidence and was no longer worried. I'm here to freeload. She was calm, no longer treating Chu Feng as a peerless master. Chu Feng looked up with a smile. You don't have that burden Xia Qinyu by your side this time. There was no evidence that Bodhi Biogenetics had participated in his assassination, so Chu Feng naturally regained his composure. He couldn't act tyrannically with his status as a king-level expert. The atmosphere immediately relaxed. Jiang Luotian sat down gracefully and began to freeload. However, she was startled by what she saw. Is that the Black Dragon Crown Prince of the Southern Sea? Jiang Luotian was dumbfounded. The outside world was still unaware of Heiting's death. The marine race was still spreading rumors that Heiting possessed a powerful weapon that could kill Chu Feng and the others. Who would have thought that Heiting would be on the table, and she would be able to taste his tender meat? Even though Jiang Luotian had long since regained her former elegance, and was no longer at odds with Chu Feng, she was still quite shocked. If this news were to spread, many people would be shocked. The marine race would all be dumbfounded. Where was the Black Dragon Crown Prince? In the hot pot. This is the Turtledove King, this is the Sheep King, this is... Jiang Luotian's mind was in a mess as she listened to Chu Feng's introduction. Her beautiful eyes were wide open as she picked up the meat with her chopstick. She didn't know whether to eat it or not. There were 7 or 8 silver plates on the table, all of them king-level experts. Moreover, they were all famous king-level experts. Bodhi Biogenetics had paid close attention to some of them, but in the end, they had all become Chu Feng's food and had to be put into the hot pot. Jiang Luotian threw caution to the wind after seeing Chu Feng's calm evaluation and introduction of the various ingredients. King-level experts? They were all food. In the end, both the host and the guest were enjoying themselves. Outside the window, ice and snow were rolling about, but the room was steaming hot and fragrant. 1 bottle of wine wasn't enough, so Jiang Luotian ordered more. In the end, Chu Feng was a bit tipsy and Jiang Luotian almost passed out. Her beautiful eyes were half closed and her eyelashes fluttered. She had completely let go of herself and returned to her former self. You're too evil. I accompanied Qinyu on a blind date, but you made us look so miserable the first time we met. We even appeared on the news for no reason. Jiang Luotian thought about the past. Yes, I remember. Even now, people are saying that you nurtured the fetus. But it really wasn't mine. Chu Feng said, his breath reeking of alcohol. Jiang Luotian's eyes went wide after hearing this. She wanted to slap him. Being with this guy and letting go of himself would definitely make her gnash her teeth in anger. She opposed him with equal harshness. In the end, she teased Chu Feng in a drunken manner. The great demon King Chu, someone who can contend with peerless experts, is forced to go on blind dates every time. Moreover, I see him every time. Haha. Jiang Luotian was a bit drunk. Her fair and delicate face was incomparably rosy. Her beautiful face was glowing, and her figure was perfect and enchanting. Chu Feng's face was dark. He felt that he was indeed unlucky. First was the blind date with Xia Qianyu, and the second was with the undead phoenix. In the end, he ran into Jiang Luoshan again. Blind dates in this day and age? Call me sister, and I'll introduce you to some of my good sisters. They're all slender and elegant, Jiang Luoshan teased. What are you doing? Looking for a spanking again? Chu Feng cast a sidelong glance at her and taunted. Jiang Luoshan was immediately angry and humiliated. She had been treated so rudely by this guy twice, and this made her very angry. In the end, Jiang Luoshan was completely drunk. She gracefully slid under the seat. Chu Feng finished the food and was finally full. He was still tipsy and helped her up from the floor. He placed her on the sofa and covered her with a thick blanket. If I put you on the bed, what if you wake up and start screaming? You can sleep on the sofa. Then, he staggered into the room inside, fell onto the comfortable bed, and began to sleep. Half an hour later, Jiang Luoshan woke up in a daze and went to the bathroom. She was still drunk, but when she came back, she went straight to the master bedroom and got on the bed. Hey Jiang Luoshan, you're in the wrong place. Don't molest me. Chu Feng reminded her. He was a king-level warrior, so he could wake up at the slightest movement. However, Jiang Luoshan was so dizzy that she fell asleep on the bed. Chu Feng glared at her, but after thinking for a while, he decided to ignore her and fell asleep as well. Obviously, the next morning was not going to be peaceful. It was a world of ice and snow outside, and the temperature dropped sharply. When Jiang Luoshan woke up in the room, she felt warm, but she was in someone's arms. Ah! She screamed. Don't scream, you molested me, Chu Feng said hurriedly. Although his arms were full of soft jade, and she was tall and slender, it had nothing to do with him. What did you do to me? Jiang Luoshan jumped up and landed on the floor. Chu Feng shrugged helplessly. You were drunk last night, so I threw you on the sofa. Jiang Luoshan's fair face was full of anger. She sharply noticed the words "threw me on the sofa." This guy was too unkind. How could he let her sleep on the sofa? Then, you snuck into my room in the middle of the night. I warned you not to molest me, but you still got on the bed. You rolled to my side several times, but I pushed you away. One time, I accidentally kicked you off the bed. But you persevered, and I had no choice but to let you molest me. I forced myself to sleep. Hearing this, Jiang Luoshan wanted to punch him. This guy was too much. What the hell was he talking about? He was making her look bad. Beast! She scolded in shame. Chu Feng argued and said, Nonsense, you're clearly worse than a beast. You were drunk and I was also unlucky enough to fall asleep. We didn't become beast. Go to hell. At most, I could only resist passively. Not only did I manage to touch a few places, but you were the one who insisted on crawling towards me. Chu Feng said righteously. Whoosh! Jiang Luoshan ran away. She couldn't argue with such a person, and she couldn't say much. Otherwise, she would be furious. Chu Feng observed Mount Putuo for a while. The ice and snow were still the same, and the mysterious mountain had not appeared. He decided to leave. Old Jiang, your daughter did a great job. She was with Chu Feng last night. Maybe this kid will join Bodhi Biogenetics in the future. Early in the morning, an old man spoke to Jiang Luoshan's father in a mysterious manner. Old Chun, you bastard! How dare you trick my daughter? I'll kill you! A roar came from the other end of the communicator. It's none of my business. The two old men began to quarrel over the communicator. Chu Feng left Mount Putuo and crossed the sea. The outside world was bound to be restless this morning. The famed mountains and great rivers were covered in snow, but the other regions were unaffected. Moreover, Chu Feng's massacre the day before, killing a group of beast kings, destroying the Ashwolf tribe, and ascending Mount Putuo to kill the peacock. These two pieces of news became hot topics and incited heated discussions. Chu Feng traveled at a moderate pace, traversing 7,000 kilometers in less than 2 hours to reach Jiangxi. Everyone was talking about the snowflakes on the famous mountains and great rivers. Everyone was looking forward to it. Perhaps another change had already begun, and everyone was waiting. At the same time, people were also evaluating Chu Feng's combat strength. Everyone knew that he had shocked the world with a single battle and killed a group of beast kings. Everyone was shocked and amazed. At the critical moment, someone from the marine race stood out. He was fairly confident that Hating would soon attack. After the Black Dragon Crown Prince recovers, who on the continent will be able to contend against him? The Southern Sea Dragon race has delivered a great killing weapon to Hating. Not to mention Demon King Chu alone, even 2 or 3 peerless experts won't be able to contend against Hating. Many people from the marine race thought so. They were waiting to see Hating display his might and settle his grudge with Chu Feng. At this point, they still didn't know that Hating had long since become Chu Feng's food ingredient. The marine race people were fairly calm as they waited for the show to unfold. However, the next piece of news shocked them. Someone had discovered the skeleton of a giant flood serpent on Mount Sanqing. There was still some flesh left, but many areas had been shaved clean. Hating has been eaten. The marine race people were dumbfounded after hearing this news. Chapter 268. Hating had been eaten. When this piece of news got out, everyone was stupefied. It was just too strange and too shocking. After calming down, not only did the marine race people not believe it, but the others also felt that it was ridiculous and unreal. Who would have such a big appetite? A bunch of nonsense. Some of the marine race people retorted and warned them not to tarnish the reputation of the marine race. The experts who had come ashore from the southern sea were especially furious. They felt that this kind of rumor was too hateful. Who would dare treat them as food? Were they crazy? Most of the marine race people didn't believe it. Hating wasn't an ordinary person. As a member of the dragon race, coupled with his legendary killing weapon, it was too difficult to kill him. Additionally, news of such a battle would have spread long ago if it really happened. How could they wait until he was eaten before revealing it? The attacker was simply too calm. How laughable! If you want to tarnish the reputation of our Southern Sea lineage, you should use a different method. This kind of nonsense is too low level. A clam girl from the Southern Sea sneered. Her words were full of disdain and disdain. She simply didn't believe it. She had gained quite a bit of fame ever since she came ashore. That was because her strength was extremely terrifying. Add to that her graceful figure, bright eyes, white teeth, and flowing fine black hair, she was extremely beautiful. She had obtained the name of the Clam Fairy. Following which, another marine race expert spoke. Some humans really dare to speak. Aren't they afraid of impending disaster? Just you lot dares to humiliate my brother Hating and talk nonsense about him being eaten? This kind of damage is too despicable. Those who aren't convinced can wait for the Black Dragon race to come and wipe them out. The so-called experts of the human race aren't enough. This was a ferocious killer whale. This race was the overlord of the seas even before the upheavals, so there was no need to talk about them now. He had long since severed his 6th shackle. The competition in the Southern Sea was too intense, so he left the bloody maelstrom and went ashore. He wanted to obtain fortunes in the famed mountains and great rivers in order to evolve once more. The marine race didn't believe Hating was dead. Their words were full of sarcasm and contempt. Although their main target was the rumor monger, they were also quite arrogant and disdainful toward the humans on land. Sigh, I really hope that Hating was really eaten by someone and it's not just a rumor. Damn it, these oceanic race people are too rude. A few people discussed this, feeling a bit resentful. They always felt that the sea race's words were too tyrannical, as if they looked down on the world with disdain. He made it sound as if the people of the continent were so unbearable. The marine race thought that Hating being eaten was a ridiculous story. I'm sorry, I had just sent the message that Black Viper was eaten when my communicator broke. I didn't have the time to send the photos, so I had to make another trip. I'm presenting the evidence now. Just as people were feeling indignant and thinking that the sea race was too arrogant and tyrannical, the person who had exposed the news appeared again. According to him, Mount Sanqing was now covered in ice and snow. His communicator had fallen into a hole in the ice and was completely destroyed. He had made another trip and brought more advanced recording equipment. When Hating's photo was released, people were in an uproar. Although most of its body was covered by ice and snow, its silhouette could still be clearly seen. It was such a huge flood serpent, even longer than a train. People immediately felt dizzy. Hating's true form was indeed frightening. However, it was now in a miserable state. Its snow-white skeleton lay across the mountain ridge, intimidating all birds and beasts. Ordinary creatures didn't dare approach that area as it emitted a suppressive might. Who? Who killed this young expert of the Southern Sea's Black Dragon bloodline? The marine race was completely stupefied. Was the news true and not just a rumor? This was a major event. The Southern Sea Elder Dragon King only had 3 sons, and now one of them had been eaten. This was bound to incite his wrath. This old dragon was quite protective of his children and definitely wouldn't let this matter rest. If he were to go crazy, the entire Southern Sea would be thrown into chaos and all the islands would sink. To be more precise, this was an old flood serpent with at least 1,500 years of cultivation. He occupied the Southern Sea and no one could shake his position as the overlord. He was the true king of the Southern Sea and was known as the supreme expert. Truly audacious. He actually dared to kill Hating. No matter who he is, he's dead for sure. There's no suspense. He's destined to be killed by the Southern Sea Elder. Some of the marine race members were furious. They all came from the sea, but one of their experts had been killed and eaten. This made them lose all face, and they were bound by a common hatred for the enemy. There were also people who said that the photo wasn't necessarily true and wanted to verify it. The Clam Fairy was the first to move, followed by the Tiger Whale King. They were all on good terms with Hating, so they immediately charged toward Mount Sanqing. In truth, the marine race members still couldn't believe it. The news had come too suddenly, and they had been waiting to watch a good show. They felt that Hating would torture Chu Feng to death and sweep through the human heroes with his great weapon. Not long ago, they were still discussing and waiting for Hating to display his divine might. Who would have thought that everything would change in just half a day? It was like the collapse of the heavens and the earth. The flood serpent's meat is so delicious. Hating's flesh didn't rot after the snow fell and is still very fresh. This is the most delicious food I've ever eaten in my life. It's a peerless delicacy. Oh my God, it contains a vast amount of blood energy essence. I feel like I'm about to break through. It's miraculous, and I can't finish it all. Those who are bold, come quickly. A flood serpent as thick as a train, a ferocious creature with 6 severed shackles. Perhaps this is the only time I'll be able to eat it. That person from Mount Sanqing was fairly bold. He actually dared to eat flood serpent meat there, and even called for others to rush over. This caused a commotion. After being dumbfounded, people were indeed tempted. Many mutants and beast race experts in the vicinity finally moved out to kill their way over. These so-called delicacies naturally couldn't attract them, but the flesh of a terrifying creature with 6 severed shackles could be considered a rare medicine that could allow them to evolve. Who in this world had ever eaten a peerless expert? This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. At the same time, people also realized that the person from Mount Sanqing was doing this on purpose. He was going against the marine race, so much so that people recalled his word. He said that his communicator was broken and he didn't have time to send the pictures. This was obviously unreliable. Many people guessed that he was waiting for the marine race to jump up and refute him before sending the pictures to ridicule them. In truth, people guessed correctly. The person who had done this had long since left after eating and drinking to his heart's content. They were the black yak, the yellow cattle, and the Siberian tiger. Chu Feng kept in contact with the two oxen at all times. The black yak and yellow cattle were aware of his every move. The two oxen had gone to replace Chu Feng when he left Mount Sanqing. In the end, they called the Manchurian tiger over to eat heartily. Only when the sky was filled with snow and the cold was unbearable did they decide to leave. The clam fairy of the marine race was the first to arrive. Seeing the snow-white flood serpent skeleton on Mount Sanqing, her body immediately swayed and almost fell to the ground. "Hey Ting!" the clam fairy cried out. As a member of the Southern Sea, she had always had a good impression of Hei Ting. Who would have thought he would end up like this? As she saw it, Hei Ting was invincible and destined to rise up on the continent as the Dragon King. But now, he had died before he could achieve anything. All his ambitions had gone down the drain. The Tiger Whale King also arrived. He was flabbergasted as he stared at Hei Ting's skeleton. Had he really been eaten? And eaten completely? In truth, they had come a long way. Groups of mutants and beast races had appeared before they arrived. All of them had cut off large chunks of flesh and left with a full load. Hei Ting had indeed been eaten. The marine race had already confirmed this. This caused a huge uproar. Who did this? Could it be Demon King Chu? Many people immediately thought of Chu Feng. At this point, no one dared to underestimate him. He could already be considered a peerless expert in name and in reality. The marine race was furious, especially those from the Southern Sea. They announced that they would join hands and kill the culprit after confirming his identity. They wouldn't give him a way out. Those who bully the Southern Sea shall be killed without mercy. This was their powerful declaration. These words stirred up the masses. Be it humans or beasts, all of them were dissatisfied. Why couldn't the marine race be killed? How tyrannical! Could it be that only continental creatures were allowed to be killed? Without the need for a call, the continent's humans and beast races all wanted to boycott the Southern Sea Dragon race. They felt that they were being overly domineering. At this time, the culprit who had killed Hei Ting had already met up with the black yak, the yellow cattle, and the Manchurian tiger. They were drinking and chatting merrily. At this time, they weren't far from Mount Lu. Snow was swirling in the distance, forming a vast expanse of whiteness. The whole of Mount Lu, on the other hand, was covered in lush greenery and full of vitality. It was as warm as spring and summer. These two places weren't too far from each other. Such a wondrous scene could only be enjoyed during the upheavals. "Brother, this old brother really admires you. You killed Hei Ting, killed a group of beast kings, and even dared to challenge the Peacock King. This king is convinced." The Manchurian tiger gulped down large mouthfuls of wine and gobbled down large bowls of meat. He was in high spirits, but he was indeed astonished. Back at Mount Longhu, Chu Feng wasn't even as good as him. Who would have thought that only a few days had passed and Chu Feng was already capable of killing a peak expert with 6 severed shackles? "Brother, this old brother has prepared a gift for you," the Manchurian tiger said mysteriously in the end. "What gift?" Chu Feng was astonished. "A mount," the yellow cattle told him. In truth, the three of them had helped Chu Feng deal with a number of beast kings during the past 2 days. It could be said that they had helped him get a mount. "Didn't you want to find a king-level mount?" the black yak said in a carefree manner. "Come, let's go take a look." Chu Feng's interest was piqued. Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. Chu Feng was dumbfounded when he saw the mount and heard its cries. He didn't come to his senses for a long time. It was a donkey! After a long while, Chu Feng turned around and wanted to punch the three. "You three grandpas! How am I supposed to ride a donkey?" Chu Feng was unconvinced. "This donkey runs extremely fast. It took us a long time to catch it. It's almost 4 times the speed of sound after severed 4 shackles. According to it, it had eaten a type of light fruit that gave it such godly speed, the black yak explained. Even he couldn't catch it on his own. In the end, it was the Manchurian tiger who caught it. That was because, under normal circumstances, only a king-level expert with 6 severed shackles could reach 4 times the speed of sound. So fast? But it's still not as fast as me. Oh, this donkey looks familiar. Goddamn it, it was one of the people who attacked me that night. However, this donkey didn't dare to come out and hid in the distance. It was only at the critical moment that it gave me a kick. Chu Feng was furious after being hit by the donkey's hoof. He stared at the donkey and said, "Dragon meat in the sky, donkey meat on the ground. Just nice, let's eat it." Hee-haw, don't eat me. The gray donkey was frightened out of its wits. Damn it, you're about to die and you still dare to take advantage of me? Who are you calling hee-haw? I'll whip you to death. Chu Feng was about to use his blade on the donkey. Moo moo moo, spare me. That was my natural language just now. I've gotten used to it. The donkey begged for mercy. Damn it, you're still asking for a beating. The black yak was furious. This donkey was actually imitating a cow to beg for mercy. It was truly asking for a beating. Woof, 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 it's a misunderstanding. Brother Ox, we're from the same family. Please help me plead for mercy. The donkey was miserable. Who's from the same family as you? The black yak glared. Yellow Cow rubbed his forehead as if he had been defeated. Chu Feng, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. Where did they find this donkey? It was simply too spineless. The Manchurian tiger coughed dryly. After a series of explanations, Chu Feng was also convinced. It was said that when the black yak and the others caught up to it, this cowardly donkey didn't resist at all. It immediately knelt down and begged them not to kill it. It offered to be their mount of its own accord and willingly. According to the others, this donkey was as timid as a mouse. Although it was a king with 4 severed shackles, it didn't have the slightest bit of boldness and was crying as it begged for mercy. Chu Feng purposely scared it, saying, "You want me to roam the world on a donkey? Forget it. Why don't I eat it instead? Stewed black donkey meat is extremely fragrant." Moo woof woof, I'm a gray donkey, not a black donkey. My meat isn't tasty. I beg for mercy. I remember now. Peerless and great demon King Chu, I know of a king who's very suitable to be your mount. Chu Feng hadn't realized that this donkey was also a bootlicker. It had even used the words peerless and peerless in such a short time. Which king is suitable? Chu Feng asked. The Golden Condor King, of course. He was one of the main forces that attacked you that night. He has severed his 5th shackle and is known as the Golden Condor King. He can fly at 4 times the speed of sound and is definitely faster than me. The Donkey King betrayed his comrades and was fairly spineless. He even told Chu Feng that the Golden Condor King was hiding on Mount Lu. In truth, the reason the 2 oxen and the Manchurian tiger had met up with Chu Feng here was because they had heard the Donkey King leak this information. They were prepared to capture the Golden Condor King. Chu Feng immediately recalled the golden-haired man who had attacked him with a long blade that night. The blade had even cut through his body and injured him. Yes, that's the one. Chu Feng nodded. He then waved his hand and said, "Let's go to Mount Lu and capture that golden condor." Although the Golden Condor King wasn't as fast as him, it could fly. There were mountains and rivers in the way, and they would sometimes need to take a detour. Chu Feng might not be as fast as the Golden Condor King. Very well, let's go take care of him. The Eastern Black Tiger bared his teeth. 4 times the speed of sound is much faster than an airplane. After capturing it, we can place a palace on its back. It'll be very comfortable. We can drink wine and enjoy delicacies while traveling. Just the thought of it is wonderful. It's simply a private, luxurious plane. The black yak sighed. Chu Feng nodded and laughed loudly. He was just about to go to the major corporations to collect debt. This Golden Condor King couldn't be any better. In the future, he wouldn't have to trouble old man Lu Tong to arrange flights for him. As for the Donkey King, the Black Yak finally accepted it as a mount. According to him, riding a donkey wasn't ordinary and possessed an immortal aura. Yellow Cattle was immediately disdainful after hearing these words. Haven't you heard of old Zhang Guo riding a donkey? Donkey, let's go. The Black Yak immediately mounted it. Thump! But soon after, he was kicked off by Yellow Cattle and his mount was snatched away. Chapter 269. Mount Lu was one of the 10 famed mountains of China. Additionally, Mount Lu was one of the 3 mountains and 5 peaks, and its status was extremely high. Recently, Mount Lu had attracted the attention of all parties. Although many kings had fought over it, no one had been able to claim it. At this moment, snow was swirling about like goose feathers, enveloping the entire place in silver and white. Without this blizzard, Mount Lu would be beautiful and majestic. There were countless lakes amidst the lush greenery, and the most famous of them all was the waterfall. The mountains and rivers intersected, creating a beautiful scenery. Purple smoke rose from the incense burner in the sunlight, and the waterfall hung in the distance. Such a scene could no longer be seen. There was snow everywhere, and even the waterfall had been frozen. Hee-haw, this snow is too heavy. This old donkey has lived for hundreds of years, but I've never seen such abnormal snow. The Donkey King bared his fangs, and his mouth was filled with white mist. He had calmed down because he knew he wouldn't be eaten by Chu Feng. His heart was completely at ease as he focused on being the Yellow Cattle's mount. The temperature plummeted as they entered the Mount Lu area. It was terrifyingly cold. Hey, how is this a goose feather snowstorm? It's clearly a human head snowstorm. The Black Yak let out an odd cry. The snowflakes falling from the sky were somewhat frightening. Some were even half a foot long and were smashing down on his head. Roar! The Manchurian tiger decided to revert to his true form. Only then would it be convenient for him to move forward. Otherwise, the snow here would be as tall as a person. This king has lived in the icy Siberia for many years, but I've never seen such thick snow, the Manchurian tiger complained. Donkey King, do you know where the Golden Condor King is? Quickly find the right place. This world of ice and snow isn't suitable for raiding bird nests, the Black Yak urged. The blizzard would rush in as soon as he opened his mouth. The wind was strong and the snowflakes were everywhere. They flew into people's mouths and noses, making it difficult to open one's eyes. I only heard that there's a nest here. I don't know if it's hiding here. The Donkey King wasn't confident. The main peaks of Mount Lu, such as the Great Hanyang Peak and the 5 Elders Peak, were all inaccessible and dangerous. However, the base of the mountain and the waist of the side peaks could be inhabited. I can't see the true face of Mount Lu because I'm on this mountain. I almost lost my way. The Black Yak was shivering from the cold. In the depths of Mount Lu, the temperature was 120 degrees below zero. It was bone-piercingly cold. If an ordinary person came here, it would be difficult for them to survive. Even a king-level entity would find it too cold. The Manchurian tiger said, Mount Lu was originally beautiful and lush. How did it end up like this? Do you guys think that this upheaval is good or bad? If this goes on, what kind of good fortune can there be? Those divine ancient trees will be frozen. How can they bloom and bear fruit? Even the Yellow Cattle didn't understand. Even though it came from another world and was very knowledgeable, it didn't understand the signs of changes in this world. It was uncertain. Silence. Chu Feng felt a wave of life force. It was extremely strong and rich. There was an extremely powerful creature in the ice and snow. The Donkey King seemed to have thought of something and said, There is an ancient tree near the waterfalls on Mount Lu that bears transformation fruits. Its strength is unfathomable. Chu Feng and the others were astonished. They had long since heard that the transformation fruit was born here on Mount Lu and grew from a 1,000-year-old tree. Who would have thought they would be able to see it today? In truth, although trees bearing transformation fruits were rare, this wasn't the only one. It was just that the old tree on Mount Lu was the most famous. That was because it was the first to bear transformation fruits and possessed terrifying strength. Even experts with 6 severed shackles wouldn't dare to provoke it. "Let's go around it and not provoke it," the Manchurian tiger said. He had sensed that the old tree was definitely an expert with 6 severed shackles. Chu Feng didn't mind. Although he wasn't afraid, he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. Finally, they avoided this area and arrived at the base of Mount 5 Elders under the guidance of the donkey. There, they saw a cave. The Donkey King extended a hoof and pointed to the front, indicating that it was there. "I'll go first to prevent it from spreading its wings and soaring into the sky," Chu Feng said. His speed was extremely fast, and he could evade the divine instincts of king-level entities. He traversed 2 or 3 miles in a single leap and left no traces on the snow. He leapt onto the mountain wall and began to search through the cave after cave. Very soon, a furious cry was heard as a resplendent golden light erupted from within the mountain wall. The Golden Condor King had indeed been found and was hiding here. He let out a long whistle and did everything he could to resist. However, he was still sent flying by a single slap from Chu Feng. He crashed into the mountain wall and was sent tumbling through the snow. "Chu Feng!" the Golden Condor King cried out loudly. The Golden Condor King cried out loudly. He was shocked, angry, and a bit scared. Just now, he had been dragged out of his nest, slapped on the back of his head, and thrown down the mountain. He wanted to fly away because he knew he wasn't Demon King Chu's match. "Where do you think you're going? Stay here!" the Manchurian tiger roared. As a fierce expert with 6 severed shackles, his roar was an earth-shattering sound wave technique that shook the Golden Condor King's blood and chi, causing him to cough up blood. That was because the Manchurian tiger wasn't kind at all. He could have grabbed the Golden Condor King with his claws, but all he did was roar at the Golden Condor King. The sound waves reverberated and caused the Golden Condor King to feel dizzy. "Big Condor, you actually dared to surround and kill my brother. You even forced us to dig out your nest in the snow. You've committed a grave sin, yet you still want to run? Come down." The Black Yak let out a roar and soared into the air. He grabbed the Golden Condor King, who was just about to fly up, and dragged him down. Thump! The Black Yak took advantage of the situation and smashed the Golden Condor King with his fist, sending him flying and crashing into the ground. The Golden Condor King knew he was in deep trouble this time. He had no way to fly up and was completely suppressed. His lair had been destroyed and he couldn't escape. Clang! He transformed into his human form and slashed at the Black Yak with a dazzling blade in his hand. As an expert with 5 severed shackles, he wanted to fight the Black Yak. Thump! On the stone wall, Chu Feng gave him a punch through the air, causing him to cough up blood. He then reverted to his true form with his golden feathers flying everywhere. There wasn't much to say at the moment. He would beat him up first and temper him a bit. That was because even ordinary people would have to temper their eagles. They would have to deal with him first and make him docile. The Golden Condor King cried out in anger. He was incomparably furious after being suppressed like this, even if it was Demon King Chu. He resisted with all his might and soared into the air once again. Thump! The Manchurian tiger attacked. His body was like a small mountain as he slapped the Golden Condor King down. The Golden Condor King rolled on the ground in pain. At this time, he suffered another blow. This time, it was a donkey's hoof. With a clang, it landed on his head, causing him to roll his eyes and almost faint. It was also at this time that he saw the Donkey King. "It's you." The Golden Condor King was furious. He flipped over and leapt up. He was truly furious. He immediately understood that it was this donkey who had led the way for Chu Feng and the others to find this place. Brother Condor, as the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. The peerless demon King Chu wishes to invite you to come out of seclusion and conspire with us, the old donkey said in all seriousness. I attacked him from all sides and almost took his life. Do you think he'll let me go? The Golden Condor King suppressed his anger and didn't attack again. He didn't want to die despite his unyielding character. If he were to fight under such circumstances, he would die without a doubt. Demon King Chu alone was enough to crush him to death. Of course, even Demon King Chu has let me go, let alone a hero like the Golden Condor King, the old donkey replied. Speak the truth. I'm here to subdue you as a mount, Chu Feng spoke. He didn't want to be tricked by the old donkey. What conspire? There was no need to say such things. You're going too far. The Golden Condor King was furious. I don't want to waste words with you. I'm here to collect my debt. It's up to you whether you want to submit or not. If you do, you'll follow me from now on and you'll receive many benefits. If you don't, then die. Chu Feng didn't want to say too much. The Golden Condor King was the main force that attacked him that night. If it wasn't for his outstanding flying ability, he would have blown him to smithereens long ago. Old Jean, take it easy. Don't let your anger burn your life away. I want to be Demon King Chu's mount, but he doesn't even want me. The Donkey King advised. You spineless coward, how many people don't know? I really didn't expect a cowardly rat like you to know my secret residence. You traitor! The Golden Condor King became angrier and angrier as he spoke. Do you want to die? Chu Feng's fist smashed down, sending the Golden Condor King flying once again with blood spurting out of his mouth. He had no chance to spread his wings and soar into the sky. He was completely suppressed here. Big Condor, we gave you a chance to live. Don't blame us for killing you if you don't grasp it, the Black Yak said coldly. He drew his violet saber with a clang and was about to slash down. Let me do it. I'll smash him to pieces with one slap, the Manchurian Tiger said. Only Yellow Cattle was quiet and hadn't made a move since the beginning. The others had already attacked the Golden Condor King several times. Fellow Taoists, please show mercy. A fluctuation came from the distance. It was the old tree from the waterfall. He was actually transmitting his voice through the ice and snow. Little Condor, give in. I watched you grow up on Mount Lu. I can't bear to see you die like this, the old tree transmitted. Grandpa Tree, he wants to make me his mount. I refuse to accept this. The Golden Condor King was somewhat unyielding. It's better than dying. Moreover, you were the one who attacked him first. It's not something to be proud of. There's no point in saying whether you're willing or not, the old tree persuaded. Apparently, the old tree's words had a great impact on the Golden Condor King. In the end, he lowered his head in anger because he really didn't want to die. Chu Feng also didn't want to make things too difficult for him. I won't make things difficult for you. I won't treat you as a slave. You're free to do whatever you want except when carrying me on long journeys. As for whether the Golden Condor King wanted to escape, Chu Feng didn't care. If this Bird King really agreed and ran away, it would mean that he was destined to be killed the next time they met. In the end, the Golden Condor King carried Chu Feng's group into the sky and left the Mount Lu region. At first, Chu Feng wanted to visit the old tree but was tactfully declined. He said that he was undergoing a tribulation and that the ice and snow were harmful to him. Moreover, there might be other disasters later on and he didn't want to be distracted. Their destination, Hangzhou. Chu Feng's group set out on a road to collect debts and visited some major corporations. They arrived at Hangzhou in the middle of the night. The West Lake region was also covered in snow and ice. West Lake was no longer the same after the upheavals. It was extremely large with a radius of hundreds of kilometers and was separated from the city. The Archaic Alliance was located in Hangzhou. At night, Chu Feng's group settled down in Hangzhou and prepared to visit the Archaic Alliance the next morning. The human king they had captured on Mount Yunluo had already confessed that he was from the Archaic Alliance and had been pried open by professionals from the Hollow Jade Temple. That was why Chu Feng's first stop was here. He was going to make an example out of this corporation. In truth, the Jiangxi region was in a turbulent state and various matters had yet to settle down. For instance, the Peacock King and the Marine race were still there. Moreover, a good number of great demons from Mount Kunlun had also arrived. Additionally, the Hollow Jade Temple Master, the Wudong Grandmaster, the Golden Crow, and the Nine Lives Cat had also appeared. At first, Chu Feng wanted to meet these people, but he couldn't hold himself back. He rushed over immediately after finding out which of the human corporations were plotting against him. We'll collect debts from the corporations first, then we'll have a seafood feast, roasted peacock and stewed golden crow. Let's thank the Wudong Grandmaster and the others, said Chu Feng. Being schemed against and plotted against by other human corporations made him furious. That was because these people were even more sinister and terrifying than the beast race. He had to get rid of them immediately. Early in the morning, it was a world of ice and snow in the direction of West Lake. Everything within a radius of hundreds of kilometers was covered in silvery whiteness. Meanwhile, the weather in the city area was sunny with a clear blue sky. It was warm and comfortable. In front of a skyscraper, Chu Feng arrived with his hands behind his back. This was the headquarters of the Archaic Alliance. I'm begging for your recommendation votes on Monday. If everyone has monthly votes, please support the Holy Ground. Chapter 270. This entire skyscraper belonged to the Archaic Alliance. Chu Feng strode forward. Mister, please halt. A 2-meter-tall uniformed security guard with cold eyes blocked Chu Feng's path. It was obvious that this was a powerful mutant. He expressionlessly told Chu Feng that this was private property and not open to the public. Hee-haw, we're not at the wrong place. We're here to collect a debt from the Archaic Alliance. The Donkey King spoke as though he was cursing. He was in human form and appeared to be in his 50s or 60s. He had a head of gray hair, a pair of long, pointed ears, and a mouth full of large teeth. His smile was especially wretched. The 2-meter-tall security guard glared at him. How could he speak like this? How could he call someone son the moment he opened his mouth? He suppressed his anger and emphasized that no one was allowed to approach without an appointment. It seems not everyone knows you. Yellow Cattle giggled as he glanced at Chu Feng. Chu Feng didn't reply and simply walked forward. He was here today to collect a debt. He wouldn't bicker with the security guard in front of him. If he wanted to punish someone, it would be against the higher-ups of the Archaic Alliance. Halt! The security guard's roar alarmed a group of black-uniformed men. They rushed out of the building and surrounded Chu Feng's group. Chu Feng ignored them and continued walking forward. The Manchurian Tiger and the Black Yak followed closely behind as they charged in. As they saw it, these mutants were no different from scarecrows. They might be powerful to ordinary people, but they were far inferior to king-level entities. Are you courting death? The head of the security guards roared. He swung a black stick in his hand and smashed it towards Chu Feng's face. Crack! The powerful arcs of electricity were many times more powerful than ordinary electric rod. Ordinary people would most likely lose their lives if they were struck. How tyrannical! Chu Feng said softly. He raised his left hand and pointed with a finger. With a tearing sound, a similar electric arc broke the black club and sent the 2-meter-tall man flying. This group of people had been secretly trained and had undergone long-term closed-door training. They were violent to their enemies. Not to mention that they did not know Chu Feng. Even if they knew him, they would still dare to attack him. The group of people roared and swung their black electric rods at the same time. Unfortunately, it was not enough. Chu Feng's body glowed, and in an instant, he sent them flying. He walked into the building with light step. "How dare you come here and act presumptuously? All of you, get down on the ground." There was a group of black-clothed men in the building. They were all armed with large caliber guns. "Damn it, you guys really are an underground organization. Black Kingdom, how dare you use these things in the city? Are you lawless?" The Black Yak shouted from behind. He threw away the cigar that was as thick as a carrot in his mouth, and his face darkened. He unbuttoned his white shirt and adjusted his big sunglasses. White smoke began to come out of his mouth and nose as he prepared to make a move. Needless to say, his appearance was really intimidating. As a result, more than half of those people's guns were aimed at him. Bang, bang, bang. Additionally, these people were extremely violent. Some of them immediately opened fire at Chu Feng and the Black Yak, aiming to kill. Both Chu Feng and the Black Yak were astonished. This group of people dared to make a move in the city? They were truly unbridled and lawless. Although they knew that these corporations covered the sky with their hands and possessed terrifying power in their respective territories, this kind of tyranny had exceeded their expectations. Bastard! The Black Yak was furious. He transformed into a black gust of wind and spun his body as he kicked forward. The bullets were useless against his body. They only rang out with a tinkling sound as if he was an indestructible diamond. That person was sent flying like a rag doll when he kicked out. The others were just about to make their move when the Donkey King revealed his true form and shouted, "Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw." His speed was simply too fast. He dashed through the area like a wisp of smoke and sent a large group of black-clothed men flying. All of them rolled on the ground with broken bones and torn tendons. Suddenly, the Black Yak was shocked and his hair stood on end. He quickly rose into the air and pounced towards a certain direction. Chi! At the same time, Chu Feng tossed out his flying knife and tore apart a room. There was actually a laser weapon inside. This was too shocking. There was actually such a powerful weapon installed on the ground floor of a skyscraper in the city. This was truly shocking. Hee-haw, hee-haw, you're all courting death. The Donkey King was also furious. He extended his 4 hooves and charged through the air with great ferocity. Together with the Black Yak, they destroyed all the installations on the ground floor. It really is an independent Black Kingdom. Chu Feng snorted coldly. It was at this time that the sound of high heels clacking against the ground was heard. A beautiful lady in a short skirt with long, snow-white legs walked over. Her hair was coiled up, her facial features were exquisite, and her eyes were long and narrow as if they could speak. "Chu Feng, Mr. Chu, this is truly unexpected. Who would have thought you'd come to our archaic alliance? My apologies. These people don't know the rules and have offended you. Please forgive us." This uniformed beauty was fairly polite and apologized repeatedly. She said that these black-clothed men had been undergoing closed-door training and had just been transferred over. This misunderstanding was caused because they didn't recognize Chu Feng. At the same time, she said that she would immediately notify the higher-ups of the Archaic Alliance, and that they would rush over immediately. Her name was Li Liqiong. From the attitude of the black-clothed men and the people who had rushed over after hearing the news, one could tell that her status wasn't low. One shouldn't slap a smiling person. Chu Feng also didn't want to implicate the innocent. He wanted to find the person who had plotted against him. They stepped into the elevator and arrived at a large parlor on the 45th floor. There, they waited for the higher-ups of the Archaic Alliance to arrive. There were also important personnel present. A young man with a gentle countenance and delicate features appeared. He was calm and low-key as he greeted them politely. He repeatedly apologized for the uncouth security guard. Li Liqiong introduced him as the young master of the Zhang family. His name was Zhang Qing, one of the most important members of the Archaic Alliance. What, young master? Isn't this a slap to my face? Brother Chu, you can just call me Zhang Qing. If you're willing, you can call me brother. I'll be overwhelmed by your favor. Zhang Qing was fairly humble. Chu Feng looked at him in a simple and direct manner. No matter how low-key or polite the other party was, he only had one sentence. He was here to collect a debt. Zhang Qing was astonished. He then seemed to come to a realization. Could it be that Uncle Lu's disappearance has something to do with the king-level hunting down Brother Chu? The Uncle Lu he was referring to was the human king Chu Feng had captured at Mount Yunluo, Lu Ziheng. Chu Feng revealed a cold smile. How does the Archaic Alliance want to give me an explanation? Imperceptibly, he began to emit a wave of killing intent. Back in Jiangxi, a group of king-level experts had encircled him twice. The human king-level experts were even more sinister than the beast race. At Mount Yunluo, the Peacock King wanted to flee, but Lu Ziheng and another human king tried their best to dissuade him. They roped in the other kings and said that they had to kill Chu Feng no matter what. It could be said that the corporate powers were even more ruthless than the beast race. They were bent on killing Chu Feng. Zhang Qing was both astonished and puzzled. How could Uncle Lu do such a thing? We had no idea at all. Chu Feng didn't say anything. The black yak and the Manchurian tiger also wore cold expressions. If it's true that Uncle Lu has done such a heart-wrenching thing, we definitely won't tolerate it. We must punish him severely and give Brother Chu a satisfactory explanation. Punish? Will he be able to return alive? The black yak said with a gloomy expression. It's our fault for such a thing to happen. No matter what, the Archaic Alliance must give Brother Chu an explanation. Zhang Qing sighed with a regretful expression. Li Liqiong whispered that some of the Archaic Alliance's higher-ups had arrived. Chu Feng stood in front of the parlor's window and gazed into the distance. This was the 45th floor and was directly facing West Lake. That place was covered in snow and wind, but here it was as if it were midsummer. It was truly a marvelous sight. 4 old men pushed open the door and entered. One of them was Zhang Qing's uncle, Zhang Yuanhang. The old men were shocked when they heard about this matter on the way here. They had no idea that Lu Ziheng had acted on his own and actually done such a thing. Zhang Yuanhang was dressed in traditional Chinese clothing and looked quite spirited. However, his attitude was quite low and he kept apologizing profusely, saying that he was willing to compensate Chu Feng. No matter what, Lu Ziheng is a king-level expert we invited. The Archaic Alliance is willing to bear part of the responsibility for his actions behind our back. The other 3 elders also expressed their apologies. Chu Feng watched with cold eyes as if he wasn't involved in this matter. He didn't say a single word because he had long since investigated this matter. Lu Ziheng had already confessed that it was someone from the Archaic Alliance who had invited him to take action. Moreover, it was the Zhang family. These people were still trying to shift the blame onto others as if they were innocent. The Manchurian tiger sneered, then hand over the magical weapons first. Also hand over the breathing technique. This, we really don't have it. Although our Archaic Alliance has some treasures, we don't have such a thing. Zhang Yuanheng sighed. A cold smile appeared on Chu Feng's face. Back then, a human king had brought out a magical weapon like the violet gold lightning hammer to kill him. This was enough to prove the wealth of the corporations. How could they not have it? The black yak's expression was gloomy. He felt that although the Archaic Alliance was apologizing, it lacked sincerity. Moreover, they seemed to be relying on themselves. How do you want to resolve this matter? Yellow Cattle asked directly. From now on, everyone here is an esteemed guest of our Archaic Alliance. We will do our best to assist you if you need our help, an old man said as he wrote out a check on the spot. Chu Feng glanced at the number and saw a string of zeros behind it. It was a whole billion. For ordinary people, This was an astonishing sum that they wouldn't be able to spend it all in several lifetimes. But Chu Feng was as calm as an ancient well because any king-level entity he killed would be even more expensive. The Black Yak's expression immediately sank. Are you looking down on my brother? A peerless expert's life is only worth $1 billion? Are you trying to use money to drive us away? Brother Chu, if you think it's too little, we'll add on a larger sum. We'll do our best to satisfy everyone. The old man was about to write out another check when he explained, Lu Ziheng's actions really have nothing to do with us. He might have said some nonsense to protect himself and drag us down with him, but we've been wronged. Zhang Yuanhang also expressed that the Archaic Alliance would investigate the matter thoroughly and capture all those who had facilitated Lu Ziheng's actions. Zhang Qing spoke, Brother Chu, please calm down. We're also helpless in this matter. But don't worry, we'll definitely help you vent your anger. Don't be angry. His expression was sincere as he lowered his stance and bowed apologetically to Chu Feng. Even the old men bowed repeatedly, begging for his forgiveness. It was at this time that Chu Feng's communicator rang. It was old man Lu Tong calling. Chu Feng, sigh, I don't know what to say. Lu Tong seemed to be in a difficult position. Say it, why are you treating me like an outsider? Chu Feng walked away from the parlor and spoke to him. The Archaic Alliance found me and asked me to advise you not to deal with them, Lu Tong said. The Archaic Alliance possessed remarkable abilities and immediately contacted Lu Tong. Especially just now, they tried to persuade him in every possible way, asking him to stop Chu Feng and help him. Their hands are really long. They've already interfered with the Hollow Jade Temple, and even want you to restrain me. Old man, do you really care about their attitude? Chu Feng's eyes were cold. The Archaic Alliance had eyes and ears everywhere. Did they really think they could change his mind just by using their connections? I refused at first, but the Temple Master personally contacted me and asked me to help them once, Lu Tong reported. He was feeling quite distressed. The Hollow Jade Temple Master? Chu Feng was astonished. What relationship did this peerless expert have with the Archaic Alliance? Lu Tong sighed. It's said that the Temple Master owes them a favor. Back then, the Archaic Alliance had gifted him a fist manual containing an astonishing breathing technique. Chu Feng hung up and walked back with a cold expression. These people were truly capable. Not only did they find Lu Tong, but they also invited the Hollow Jade Temple Master. Seeing him return like this, a glint flashed in the depths of Zhang Yuanhang's eyes. Chu Feng sat down without saying a word. Although he didn't make things difficult for them, he had no intention of leaving either. Following which, the Archaic Alliance's attitude became even more subdued. No one could find any fault with them. Suddenly, Zhang Cheng's communicator rang. He glanced at it and was pleasantly surprised. After picking up the call, he said respectfully, Uncle, don't worry. We'll settle this perfectly. Ah, Brother Chu is indeed here. Very well, I'll give him the communicator. At this time, the Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and the Donkey King were all startled. Who was on the other end of the communicator? They heard the voice and felt that the person's aura was quite strong. Zhang Qing walked over and said to Chu Feng in a soft voice, It's really unexpected that Uncle Yuan would personally ask me about this matter after finding out about it. Following which, he told Chu Feng that Uncle Yuan was the Hollow Jade Temple Master and that he was the one who had called him. This shocked the Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others. Chu Feng took the communicator and heard the gentle voice of a middle-aged man on the other end. Little Chu, how about you do me a favor? As expected, the Hollow Jade Temple Master had personally called Chu Feng to ask for leniency on behalf of the Archaic Alliance, asking Chu Feng to let them off. Chapter 271. Everyone in the parlor was looking at Chu Feng. Those from the Archaic Alliance knew what was going on and were somewhat nervous. Chu Feng remained silent for a while before saying, "Very well." He promised to leave and not touch the Archaic Alliance. He was a person who would repay kindness. He had thought of many things during his hesitation just now. His parents were under their protection at the Hollow Jade Temple. Additionally, the Hollow Jade Temple Master had stood up and supported him along with the Wudong Grandmaster when he was in danger. Now that the other party was asking him to do them a favor, Chu Feng found it difficult to refuse. Even though he wanted to wipe out the Archaic Alliance and the Zhang family, he still held back. But there wouldn't be a second time. Would the Hollow Jade Temple Master stop him next time? Chu Feng was also helping the Hollow Jade Temple on normal days. He had flattened mountains and destroyed strongholds, killed some tyrannical beast race experts, and now, he had intimidated the various kings. Not only was he making contributions, but he was also returning a favor. "Let's go." He was quite straightforward. After hanging up, he stood up and walked out. Zhang Yuanhang immediately relaxed and a smile appeared on his face. "Brother Chu, we really didn't expect things to turn out this way. We'll definitely compensate you," Zhang Qing said with a sincere expression. A glint flashed through the eyes of the elders. This result couldn't be better. Otherwise, the Archaic Alliance would be in chaos if this Demon King were to display his might. Chu Feng didn't reply and left immediately. "He's leaving just like that?" The Black Yak was extremely unhappy. The Archaic Alliance had evil intentions. They had sent people to hunt down Chu Feng with the beast race. How could they let him off just like that? The Manchurian tiger also felt stifled. He had never encountered such a situation before. Although he had always lacked integrity, he definitely wouldn't allow himself to feel vexed. It was just that Chu Feng didn't say anything and left just like that. They couldn't dissuade him either. Hee-haw, hee-haw. The Donkey King was the last to leave. He cried for a while before leaving behind a group of people with dark expressions. After taking the elevator to the ground floor of the building, the Black Yak couldn't help but say, "They wanted to take your life, but the Hollow Jade Temple Master let it go just like that? Damn it, I really want to rush up and kill them. This group of people seem kind and are constantly apologizing, but it's all fake. Just from the fact that they invited the Hollow Jade Temple Master to suppress you, it's obvious that they're not good people." The Black Yak was furious and extremely unwilling. He even wanted Chu Feng to withdraw from the Hollow Jade Temple. The Manchurian tiger also nodded and said, "That makes a lot of sense. We'll withdraw from the Hollow Jade Temple and join hands to conquer a famed mountain. We'll occupy the mountain and become the Divine King. We'll be free and unfettered. Which bastard would dare to interfere? I won't give face to anyone." Even Yellow Cattle agreed and said, "That makes sense. It's more comfortable to occupy a famed mountain. There's no need to worry about manpower. We can call a group of brothers from Mount Kunlun. This old donkey also supports this. Why should he suffer in the Hollow Jade Temple? What right does he have to make the Supreme Demon King Chu give up on his vengeance with a single word from the Hollow Jade Temple Master? Why should he let his mortal enemy live on?" The Donkey King also spoke. Only the human form Golden Condor King remained silent. Although he had been subdued, there was still a knot in his heart and he wasn't willing to speak. It was at this time that the beautiful lady wearing a short skirt and revealing a pair of snow-white legs, Li Liqiong, chased after Chu Feng. Her eyes were long and beautiful, and her voice was gentle as she said, "Mr. Chu, please wait." She had actually delivered a check. It was the same one from before, and it was a whole billion. Chu Feng suddenly turned back and snorted coldly. The check that had been handed over turned into powder on the spot. He stared fixedly at the lady and said, "You guys are on your own. What's the meaning of this? Are you trying to dismiss a beggar? Are you trying to humiliate my brother?" The Black Yak flipped out. Which of the beast kings my brother has killed isn't worth more than that stupid check? The Manchurian tiger also roared. Let's go. Chu Feng left in large strides. Within the guest room on the 45th floor of the skyscraper, the old men looked at each other and laughed. They no longer tried to hide their emotions and relaxed. The Hollow Jade Temple Master's golden signboard is indeed heavy. Even that demon King Chu retreated without saying a word. Zhang Yuanhang had a smile on his face. The other three old men also laughed heartily. At this time, Zhang Qing straightened his back and raised his head. He was no longer low-key and gentle. His sharp edges were revealed, and his eyes were filled with a profound divine light. His temperament was completely different from before. A faint smile appeared on his face as he said, "We've finally sent him away." Chu Feng and the others immediately left Hangzhou. They didn't stay here for long, but they didn't go very far either. They stopped about 250 kilometers away and had the Golden Condor land. Are we really going to let it go just like that? The Black Yak was unconvinced. Let's wait for a while. Since the Hollow Jade Temple Master has spoken, I'll do him a favor. But there won't be a next time, Chu Feng said. Before long, Lu Tong contacted him. The old man felt quite guilty and was feeling quite distressed. Lu Tong told Chu Feng that he would have Lu Ziheng killed and wouldn't hand him over to the Archaic Alliance. Oh? They still want this human king back and want him to return safely? Chu Feng was surging with killing intent. The Archaic Alliance's appetite was simply too big. Lu Ziheng had personally gone to Jiangxi to kill Chu Feng and was captured. The Zhang family of the Archaic Alliance wasn't satisfied and wanted him back. We give them an inch and they want a foot. Chu Feng didn't even cause trouble for them, but they still want the culprit back? The Manchurian tiger was increasingly furious. Just kill him. Why do they want to release him? Slit his neck. The Donkey King was a spineless coward, but he also cried out at this time. Chu Feng gave it some thought and said to Lu Tong, "You should be a good person to the end. Send him back to the Archaic Alliance and return him to them." "Hey, brat, what kind of angry words are you saying? Just wait, I'll help you kill him in a while," Lu Tong said. Chu Feng stopped him and said, "Don't kill him. Just send him back. I'm serious and not speaking out of anger." Lu Tong was puzzled and somewhat dumbfounded. Why would he let such an enemy go? Aren't I returning the favor to the Hollow Jade Temple? If I do it thoroughly, the Temple Master won't come looking for me next time, right? Chu Feng said. Sigh. Lu Tong sighed. He knew that this time, he had indeed made Chu Feng uncomfortable. But he soon realized that this brat wouldn't allow such an enemy to live even if he was angry. He must be scheming something. "Brat, what are you trying to do?" He couldn't help but ask. Chu Feng said, "Old man, you should pay attention these days. See if there are people looking for you like the Archaic Alliance did, and ask for your help. You want to follow the clues and find the remaining corporations?" Lu Tong's eyes narrowed. Chu Feng nodded. After seeing the Archaic Alliance resolve this crisis with a favor, there might be others who will do the same. He then added, telling Lu Tong to leak the news that Lu Tong had done the Archaic Alliance a great favor by resolving this crisis. "Are you trying to make people think that I'm omnipotent?" "Yes, downplay the role of the Hollow Jade Temple Master and emphasize that it was your doing." After a brief exchange, Chu Feng ended the call. "Brat, you're not touching the Archaic Alliance today. Apart from giving the Hollow Jade Temple Master face, you're also casting a net, aren't you?" The Black Yak glared at him. "Yes, I'll give it a try." Chu Feng didn't deny it. He then said, "Regarding these corporations, I plan to visit them one by one. It won't be good if I don't have any evidence. Let's see if I can catch a big fish this time." News spread over the next 2 days. Chu Feng had visited the Archaic Alliance but retreated in the end. He didn't dare touch this corporation. This caused an uproar. Some corporations had plotted against Demon King Chu and encircled him together with the beast race. Chu Feng had sent a punitive expedition but returned without any results? Forcing Demon King Chu into retreat, the archaic alliance is truly extraordinary. Someone sighed. What do you guys know? It's said that Lu Tong from the Hollow Jade Temple appeared to obstruct Chu Feng and did him a favor. Only then did the matter drop. Pretending to know when you don't. The truth is that the archaic alliance is omnipotent. They were acquainted with the Hollow Jade Temple Master and asked him to intimidate them. Only then did Chu Feng leave. All kinds of news spread out in a short period. The archaic alliance's foundations were truly astonishing. They actually had such a close relationship with the Hollow Jade Temple. Doubtlessly, Chu Feng's prestige was weakened during this storm. He went to visit them to denounce their crimes, but in the end, he was asked to come to the Hollow Jade Temple Master's aid, forcing him to retreat. Those who didn't know the truth thought that he was afraid of Lu Tong and the Hollow Jade Temple Master. During these 2 days, the major corporations also interacted with each other. As for their descendants, they formed their own little circles. Zhang Cheng was frequently asked by his friends about the specific situation. At first, he was quite modest and didn't want to talk too much. He only mentioned that the enmity between the Archaic Alliance and Chu Feng had been resolved and that it was all a misunderstanding. But in the end, he got drunk and revealed everything. His words were somewhat presumptuous as he boasted to the other corporate descendants. He said that this so-called Demon King Chu was nothing and that the Zhang family had directly contacted the Hollow Jade Temple Master to suppress Chu Feng on the spot, forcing him to retreat with his tail between his legs. He didn't dare speak a single word about this matter. These kinds of words eventually spread out. These rumors were, without a doubt, not good news for Chu Feng. After the news spread, even Jiang Luoshan called Chu Feng directly to inquire about what had happened. It's nothing much. I only did the Hollow Jade Temple a favor and didn't attack the Archaic Alliance. But I'm going to start a massacre soon. It can't be that every corporation has a good relationship with the Hollow Jade Temple. Help me ask around. It should be like this, right? Jiang Luoshan fell into a daze after hearing Chu Feng's words. She pondered for a moment before saying, "Don't tell me you want me to pass the message?" She thought of something and trembled all over. "If you treat me as a friend, do as you see fit," Chu Feng said and hung up. On the 3rd day, Lu Tong went to look for Chu Feng. "There's news of the old man, right? Who's looking for you?" Chu Feng asked. Lu Tong was at a loss for a moment before sighing, "There's really a big fish." "Which one?" "The Extraterrestrial Research Institute," Lu Tong informed. He sighed lightly and explained the details. The Extraterrestrial Research Institute didn't just look for Lu Tong but also the 8 Visions Temple Master. They had once gifted him a small 5-story pagoda. Back then, they didn't know its use, but now it was confirmed that it was an extremely powerful magical weapon. The 8 Visions Temple Master owed them a great favor. The Extraterrestrial Research Institute had asked the 8 Visions Temple Master to mediate and imitate the Archaic Alliance's request to the Hollow Jade Temple Master. Could it be that the Hollow Jade Temple, 8 Visions Temple, and Roaming Jade Temple Masters all have an unclear relationship with those corporations? Chu Feng asked. Lu Tong felt somewhat helpless. The 8 Visions Temple Master had spoken to him before and understood the situation. "All right, old man, don't be embarrassed. Let's pull in the net. It's enough that we've caught a big fish this time. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have known that the Extraterrestrial Research Institute would also take action. It's quite different from what I expected." Chu Feng was surging with killing intent. He wasn't going to wait any longer and was about to take action. "Calm down, don't act recklessly." Lu Tong was worried. "I won't act recklessly, but they will bleed." Chu Feng hung up. "Let's go to Hangzhou." He called out to the black yak and the Manchurian tiger. Didn't you sell the Hollow Jade Temple Master a favor and not touch the Archaic Alliance? The Black Yak asked. Chu Feng replied coldly, I said I wouldn't touch them that day, but 3 days have already passed. Moreover, that Zhang Qing was boasting to others and his words were quite disrespectful. He said I didn't dare touch the Zhang family and could only retreat with my tail between my legs. Since he dared to provoke a king-level expert like this, I have every reason to visit and kill him without mercy. Lu Ziheng had been recuperating for the past 3 days. He was deeply moved. He had participated in the assassination of Demon King Chu and was able to return after being captured. It could be considered that he had taken a trip to the gates of hell. Many people came to visit him, all of them friends and acquaintances. There was no lack of secret visits from kings. So what if it's Demon King Chu? He was helpless against the Archaic Alliance and had to release me. This was something he was very proud of. He was quite flamboyant when talking to his friends. But he regretted it after saying these words because someone had actually spread the news. He had been feeling uneasy for the past 3 days. Today, his eyelids were twitching as he suddenly opened his eyes in fear. Was this the intuition of a king? He got up and wanted to escape from Hangzhou and the Archaic Alliance. However, he was immediately dumbfounded because a young man had appeared in the room and was looking at him mercilessly. Chu Feng, how did you get in here? He cried out in alarm. This was the Archaic Alliance's building. The entire 28th floor was where he rested and cultivated. Yet, Chu Feng had actually entered without a sound. I came openly and aboveboard, Chu Feng replied. Don't kill me. Lu Ziheng's face turned pale when he saw Chu Feng again. He couldn't even muster the slightest bit of resistance because he knew the disparity between the two was too great. Give me a reason not to kill you. Chu Feng was cold and indifferent. He then said, Don't worry, you won't die silently. Everyone will know you were killed by me. The next moment, a head fell to the ground. Following this, Chu Feng set out and headed straight for the Zhang family. They didn't live in this building but rather in a villa district. Chu Feng! Zhang Qing cried out in astonishment. Very soon, the others were alarmed as they discovered the uninvited guest. Do you still need someone to plead for mercy? Oh, I'm wrong, it's to suppress me. You can contact them as much as you want. I want to see if they'll really stand up for you. Chu Feng stood in the hall and looked at Zhang Qing and the others. He wasn't in a rush to attack and was giving them time to find someone. The Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others were all within the villa district and had surrounded the area. You're too slow, Chu Feng said. With a puff, he directly cut off Zhang Qing's head. He then glanced at Zhang Yuanhang and said, Do you want to contact some major characters personally? Do it quickly. I don't have much time to wait. At this time, Zhang Yuanhang's face was incomparably pale. Chapter 272. Zhang Yuanhang's face was ashen as he retreated continuously. Brother Chu Feng, let's talk this out. Don't be rash. Zhang Qing's death before his eyes terrified him greatly. His entire body was trembling from head to toe. Normally, a single word from him could decide the life and death of others, but it was always his subordinates who carried out his orders. He had never seen blood himself. Now that his nephew had died before his eyes, his scalp went numb. My patience is limited and I don't have much time. Do you still want to contact a major character to suppress me? Chu Feng's voice was calm as he reminded him carelessly. Zhang Yuanhang was dressed in traditional Chinese clothing. He was usually calm and dignified, but now he was flustered. He hurriedly took out his communicator. Just now, his nephew had been killed by the Demon King because he was too slow. He didn't want to die. Zhang Yuanhang's fingers were trembling as he searched for a person in his communicator. His face was pale and his lips were pale. He wanted to contact the Hollow Jade Temple Master to help him out of this predicament. He had heard many rumors regarding Chu Feng. He was incomparably ferocious and could kill beast kings as if they were weeds. Ordinary kings simply couldn't stop him. You're not convinced and want to find someone to suppress me? Chu Feng's lips curled into an indifferent smile. He glanced at Zhang Yuanhang's communicator and found a person named Yuan. Zhang Yuanhang regretted his actions. He really shouldn't have provoked this person. He thought he had successfully suppressed Chu Feng last time and resolved all future troubles. Who would have thought this demon king would kill his way into his home in just 3 days? This caused him to tremble in fear. You're still too slow, Chu Feng said as a crystalline onyx-like flying knife appeared. The scarlet flying knife spun around and chopped off his head. I really shouldn't have provoked this person. Zhang Yuanhang was incomparably regretful. His heart was filled with fear as he died just like that. As a high-ranking member of the Archaic Alliance, he could decide the life and death of others with a single word. Who would have thought he would be so weak and disdainful one day? There were others from the Zhang family who couldn't restrain their anger. Some of them roared, wanting to take Chu Feng down with them. Be careful, the Zhang family is quite ruthless. There are all kinds of great weapons here, the Black Yak reminded. There were laser weapons, rocket launchers, and so on in this villa district. It was simply an arsenal, and it left people dumbfounded. However, the Zhang family didn't even have the time to move. The Black Yak, the Donkey King, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others were all here. They moved as fast as lightning and uprooted all the strongholds. Chu Feng, are you going to exterminate us all? An aged voice rang out. The Zhang family actually had a king-level expert. A silver-haired old man walked out with a powerful aura. He was an expert with 5 severed shackles and was also the strongest expert in the Archaic Alliance. In reality, this was hidden from the public. Very few people knew that there was such an old fellow whose strength had reached this level. This was Zhang Yuanhang's father. 21 years ago, he had the opportunity to become a mutant. I have no enmity with your Zhang family, yet you are bent on taking my life. Could it be related to you? Chu Feng asked. Your breathing technique can even tempt peerless experts, not to mention others. I definitely won't be the last person to covet it. The Zhang family elder's eyes shot out beams of silver light. Even in the face of danger, his aura was still strong. However, he admitted that sending people to hunt down Chu Feng was a miscalculation. The silver-haired elder wanted to negotiate with Chu Feng. As long as he let them go, the Archaic Alliance would do their best to support Chu Feng in the future. The famed mountains of the world are covered in snow. An unprecedented upheaval is about to arrive. With the help of our Zhang family and the Archaic Alliance, we'll definitely be able to help you conquer a famed mountain. The silver-haired elder believed that the famed mountains had yet to recover and would be incomparably useful in the future. Only by occupying one of them would one be able to establish a foothold. So much so that he predicted that the first thing the extraterrestrials would do after descending would be to fight for famed mountains. Only by occupying a famed mountain will we be able to negotiate with the powerful beings of the other worlds and obtain more benefits. This will allow us to rise. The silver-haired elder's eyes were burning. You don't have the qualifications to negotiate with me. I can obtain everything you've mentioned myself, Chu Feng said indifferently, his killing intent pervading the air. I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to take that step. Don't force me. The silver-haired elder's expression was gloomy. The Black Yak walked in and said, Hand over the breathing technique. We also want to take a look at the one the Archaic Alliance gave to the Hollow Jade Temple Master. No. The silver-haired elder shook his head. Then what's the use of keeping you? Go to hell. The Black Yak was furious. Chu Feng shot out the scarlet flying knife which tore the villa apart. Then let's die together. The silver-haired elder roared angrily. He was like a silver lion. He had long since known that this young man was powerful and had foreseen this outcome. There was an old and yellowed piece of paper in his hand. There were some Buddhist symbols on it, and every stroke was emitting a blinding light. It was as though tadpole characters were swimming on the withered paper. He was activating it with all his might, pouring all of his essence, energy, and spirit into it. He wanted to destroy both jade and common stone. Chu Feng didn't understand the power of this piece of paper, but he couldn't allow the elder to activate it. The flying knife arrived in front of him at lightning speed, wanting to chop off his arm. The silver-haired elder shifted his body to the side and evaded the attack. He was confident that he could activate this Buddhist paper, but he didn't know if it could really take Chu Feng's life. A stream of blood gushed out from his shoulder. He let out a muffled groan and staggered backward. His arm fell limply to the ground. Behind the window, Yellow Ox revealed his young and tender face. He activated a small silver spear the length of a chopstick and broke the old man's shoulder blade, preventing him from pouring his energy into the yellow paper. Back in Shuntian, the Preaching Research Institute had given this silver spear and the jade containing the demon flood dragon fist to Chu Feng in order to appease his anger. Chu Feng had long since obtained a flying knife, so he gave the silver spear to Yellow Cattle. Swoosh! With a flash of sword radiance, Chu Feng decapitated the elder. His figure flickered as he grabbed the old paper in his hand. After he stopped pouring energy into it, it gradually dimmed down. What a waste! He doesn't even know how to use it. Yellow Cattle jumped in and looked at the silver-haired elder with disdain. I can't accept this. The silver-haired elder died with a look of resentment on his face. This is the Arhat talisman, a type of magical weapon. It's a consumable item made by ancient evolved beings. According to Yellow Cattle, this was like a fuse. Once activated, it would be equivalent to igniting. It could draw in the free energy of heaven and earth and cause it to collide violently, producing a terrifying explosion. Now that they had forcefully disrupted the talisman, it could still be used. Yellow Cattle held it in his hand and observed it in detail. This should be made by an evolved golden Arhat. There's even a mark on it. Its power isn't bad. It should be able to kill an entity with 6 severed shackles if it were to explode. Chu Feng, the Manchurian tiger, and the Donkey King were all astonished. How could an old piece of paper, a consumable, kill a top-grade expert? The golden Arhat lineage isn't simple. They're extremely powerful. Even a crude product can be fatal to those at the shackled realm, said Yellow Cattle. He was observing the talismans on the yellow paper. Unfortunately, they were all Buddhist characters and he couldn't understand them. Unfortunately, it's not the work of a bodhisattva-level evolved being. Otherwise, it would be even more powerful. Even a simple item made casually would be incomparably terrifying. Chu Feng and the others were moved after hearing this. They were somewhat yearning. What level is a bodhisattva-level evolved being at? Asked the Manchurian tiger. Let's not think too much for the time being. It's difficult to even surpass the shackled realm at present. It won't be too late to think about these things when we can obtain the fortune of becoming a saint ancestor here. Following which, Chu Feng hypnotized them. After obtaining enough useful information from the mouths of the living, he shot out his flying knife and killed over 10 men in one go. They were all direct descendants of the Zhang family and had reasons to be killed. For instance, there were those who had plotted to eliminate Chu Feng and those who had colluded with the beast race in secret. However, he didn't kill the innocent. There were many women and children here, and Chu Feng simply couldn't bring himself to do it. With a wave of his hand, all of them fainted. The Zhang family's underground treasury was opened. Yellow Cattle picked through the items and was pleasantly surprised to find 3 more golden Arhat talismans. Although they were the crudest items made by ancient evolved beings, they were still very useful. Ha ha! Yellow Cattle was delighted. His exquisite face was full of smiles. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any breathing techniques or fist manuals. "Let's go to the Archaic Alliance's building," said Chu Feng. That was because he had already learned from hypnotizing the Zhang family that the Archaic Alliance's treasury was under the building in Hangzhou. That was the most important place. The Zhang family was one of the most important members of the Archaic Alliance. Their words held great authority, but even they couldn't represent the entire organization. Their speed was extremely fast. They arrived within moments and rushed straight for the sealed treasury. This was the Archaic Alliance's collection and was of utmost importance. There was a terrifying security system here, but everything was disintegrated in front of a peerless expert. Even the alloy walls several meters away were torn apart by Chu Feng's fists and flying knife. As for the self-destruct mechanism, they had all been dealt with in advance. The treasury was filled with a dazzling array of strange items. There was even half a flying saucer that the Archaic Alliance had dug out from some ruins. Yellow Cattle searched along the way and frowned. He had indeed found some items left behind by ancient evolved beings. Unfortunately, they were all broken and useless. "There's no fist manual." They were disappointed. "Don't worry, I'll teach you the Xingyi fist later. There's a breathing technique inside." Chu Feng consoled the two oxen. Finally, Yellow Cattle's eyes lit up. He had found a Buddhist staff. It was dull and lusterless, but it was suffused with Buddhist light and a divine aura when activated. This was an extraordinary magical weapon. This trip wasn't made in vain. This is a good item. Yellow Cattle's beautiful face was full of smiles. They guessed that the Archaic Alliance must have dug up some Buddhist ruins to have such a collection. In the end, the Buddhist staff was given to the Black Yak. He beamed with joy and beamed with joy. Lu Ziheng had been beheaded, all the important members of the Zhang family had been annihilated, and the Archaic Alliance's treasury had been dug up. This was bound to shake the world. Chapter 273. The Black Yak was extremely excited along the way. He held the Buddhist staff in his hand and shook it, causing the bronze rings hanging upon it to jingle. The sounds were crisp and pleasing to the ears as Buddhist light rippled out. Something's not right. The power isn't that great. The Black Yak was puzzled. The Buddhist staff was as thick as an arm and very heavy. It was indeed glowing after injecting energy into it, but that was all. It didn't erupt with the destructive power they had imagined. This is also the reason the Archaic Alliance sealed it. Ordinary people can't activate it. Only those who understand the Buddhist breathing technique can do so, Yellow Ox informed. The Black Yak's eyes lit up after hearing this. He immediately circulated the thunderous breathing technique. Although it was incomplete, it was enough. With a boom, incomparably terrifying light filled the air. The area within hundreds of meters seemed to have turned into a Buddhist kingdom as golden waves spread out. The Donkey King, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others were all astonished. This was especially true for the vague silhouette of an ancient evolved being, the golden Arhat behind the Black Yak. It was completely golden and possessed a dignified appearance. It was extremely astonishing. The Golden Condor King, who was hurrying along, trembled in fear. "Heh!" The Black Yak exhaled and waved his Buddhist staff with all his might, smashing it toward a towering mountain in front of him. In the end, accompanied by the sound of Buddhist chanting and the illumination of Buddhist light, the mountain was blasted apart as soon as it arrived. The top half of the mountain melted and poured down like magma. Not to mention the Black Yak, even people at the level of Chu Feng and the Manchurian Tiger were dumbfounded. The energy erupting from the Buddhist staff was a bit too ferocious. The Golden Condor King's feathers stood on end. He almost tumbled down because the energy surging around him was too terrifying. "I'm going to be sucked dry. I'm so tired." The Black Yak suddenly sat down on the Golden Condor's back like a deflated balloon. His entire body was devoid of energy, and even the hand holding the Buddhist staff was trembling. That attack just now had drained all his energy. Now, he was so weak that he couldn't even stand up. This magical weapon is indeed extraordinary. If used well, that attack just now should be enough to kill an expert with 6 severed shackles. Chu Feng's expression was solemn. The Manchurian tiger nodded repeatedly. He was so envious that his saliva was almost flowing out of his mouth. It was only because he was brothers with the black yak that they had developed a certain level of friendship. If it was someone else, this unscrupulous tiger would definitely snatch it away. This thing is extraordinary after all. Its level is very high, which is why Old Black's entire body's energy was sucked out, Yellow Cattle said. It could even be said that this Buddhist staff was stronger than Chu Feng's flying sword, purple gold thunderhammer, and Yellow Cattle's silver spear. It was the best dermic armament discovered at this stage. Yellow Cattle asserted that the attack just now could indeed kill an expert with 6 severed shackles, but the prerequisite was that the attack would hit. In particular, it consumed too much energy. If it couldn't hit the enemy, it would undoubtedly die, because after a single strike, it would have no strength left. "Let me try," Chu Feng said. Both he and Yellow Cattle had grasped an incomplete version of the thunderous breathing technique. Even the black yak had been taught by them. That was why Chu Feng could activate the Buddhist staff. Boom! Buddhist light illuminated the area within a radius of hundreds of meters, turning it into a Buddhist kingdom. Terrifying fluctuations surged forth. A golden arhat appeared behind Chu Feng. He looked as if he was cast from gold and was very indistinct. As he waved the Buddhist staff, a grand Buddhist chant rang out. Boom! Below, the remaining half of the mountain collapsed, melted, and then evaporated, immediately disappearing. This scene once again shocked the group and left them dumbfounded. The Golden Condor King couldn't take it anymore. He simply couldn't stand this kind of fluctuation. He was worried that the staff on his back would accidentally smash into his own body. Chu Feng's body swayed and he quickly sat down cross-legged. Even someone as strong as him couldn't bear it and had been drained of all his energy. The level of this Buddhist staff was too high. Experts at this stage could only activate it once. He inhaled and exhaled large mouthfuls of heaven and earth essence, circulating the breathing technique to replenish his energy. Moments later, he recovered. His foundation was strong enough that he could quickly recover even if his energy was depleted. This thing is a great killing weapon. The two of you can't fight against peerless experts at the moment. It's just right for you to use it to protect yourselves, Chu Feng said to the 2 oxen. He himself could fight against peerless experts and didn't need the Buddhist staff to protect him. In truth, the power of the Buddhist staff had exceeded Yellow Cattle's expectations. It wasn't suitable for a single person to activate it because using it all at once would cause one's energy to be exhausted. The 2 oxen both knew the thunderous breathing technique and were usually together. This Buddhist staff was very suitable for them. Seeing the Manchurian tiger drooling in envy and his eyes turning red, Chu Feng laughed and said, "Brother Tiger, since you didn't want to rush all the way from Mount Kunlun to support me, I won't treat you unfairly. What are you going to give me?" The tiger immediately became spirited and broke into laughter. "I'm going to give you a big gift, but the condition is that you don't betray me without integrity," Chu Feng warned. This fellow had defected from the western camp to come here. The Manchurian tiger became anxious after hearing this. "How can that be? I've always been a tiger of the East. Back then, I went astray and was tricked by Schiller. At the critical moment, I set things right and changed side. This is great wisdom, not lack of integrity." The black yak undermined him. "You stole the old lama's monastic robe. Have you returned it?" Last time when they attacked Mount Longhu, this tiger had stolen the old lama's monastic robe. At that time, he wanted to run away from Mount Kunlun. This made everyone speechless. Damn it, old ox, don't expose me. I've already returned it to him. That old monk is too cruel. I've clearly returned it to him, but he still wanted to take me in as a Buddhist protector beast. Fortunately, I ran away quickly. Chu Feng decided to extract the Xingyi breathing technique from the 12 true forms and teach it to the Manchurian tiger. What, a breathing technique? The Manchurian tiger's eyes went wide after hearing this. He was incomparably excited and immediately jumped up from the golden condor's back. He was born a tiger and believed that he had great potential. However, he was no match for Schiller and the Peacock King. All he could do was run after seeing them. This was all because he lacked a breathing technique. Nowadays, fierce people and peerless experts all possessed a type of inheritance. For example, the elder Lion King, Schiller, and the Peacock King were all like this. As for the old Lama, there was no need to talk about him. He had obtained the golden Arhat breathing technique. The reason Chu Feng imparted the Manchurian tiger's breathing technique was to increase his strength. Moreover, they were friends who had gone through life and death together. Back at Mount Longhu, the Manchurian tiger had contributed greatly when they fought against Schiller together. Without him, the battle would have been difficult and most of them would have died. Chu Feng placed his finger on the Manchurian tiger's forehead and transmitted the extracted Xingyi breathing technique into his spiritual domain through a spiritual imprint. At the same time, he also injected the tiger form into it. Perhaps it would be of great use to the Manchurian tiger. Ha ha! The Manchurian tiger laughed maniacally. This king also has a breathing technique. From now on, where can't I go? I'll also become a peerless expert. Moo moo woof woof. Peerless Demon King Chu, I want to learn it too. The Donkey King asked Chu Feng enviously. This spineless coward was now quite bold. I'll consider it after you've contributed greatly. Right now I'll impart you a true form. Chu Feng pointed at the Donkey King's forehead and transmitted the horse form of the Xingyi 12 true forms to him. Very well, watch my performance from now on. The Donkey King was delighted. Following which, Chu Feng imparted the eagle form to the Golden Condor King. Similarly, he didn't impart the breathing technique. The Golden Condor King was truly tempted. He had always had a knot in his heart from being suppressed as a mount. Now, his heart was clear and he desired to obtain the breathing technique. Yellow Cattle had said that it was fine as long as the breathing technique he had imparted to Chu Feng was kept a secret. This was a peerless technique that would only become more astonishing in the later stages. Its true profundities had yet to be revealed. Yellow Cattle told him that he didn't need to care about other breathing technique. Even the most powerful breathing technique couldn't compare to this one, unless the complete thunderous breathing technique appeared. Following which, Chu Feng secretly passed the Xingyi fist manual and the beast's skin with the 12 true forms to the Yellow Cattle for them to comprehend. Oh, who would have thought we'd find a mysterious staff in the Archaic Alliance? This magical weapon is too amazing. Let's hope there'll be even more astonishing rewards in the extraterrestrial civilization. The group began to ponder over how to loot the extraterrestrial civilization. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be even better if we can find some ancient treasure. They were bold and confident. This corporation wanted to kill Chu Feng and now they were here to demand repayment. Not only would they want heads to roll and intimidate the world, but they also wanted to raid the treasury and plunder the fortunes. Let's take advantage of the fact that the extraterrestrial civilization hasn't arrived yet. Let's arm ourselves and occupy the mountains first. The extraterrestrial civilization was located in Gusu City. After the upheaval, it was about 2,000 kilometers away from Hangzhou City. This was an extremely long journey for ordinary people. But it was nothing for Chu Feng. If he were to rush on his own, he could reach his destination in 20 minutes or so. It would be an astonishing feat. The Golden Condor King's speed wasn't slow either, but they were delayed because they were testing the power of the staff and studying the breathing technique and the true forms of the Xingyi fist. Even so, they arrived at Gusu City in less than 40 minutes. The debt collectors are here. They landed outside of Gusu City. The Golden Condor King transformed into his human form, and the group entered the city. The scenery at the headquarters of the extraterrestrial civilization was extremely beautiful because it was a garden. Gusu's gardens were the best in the world and were famous since ancient times. There were pavilions, rock gardens, and small stone bridges. It was truly beautiful and full of spiritual energy. There were many gardens within the city, and the extraterrestrial civilization occupied many of them. The scenery was picturesque and picturesque. The Donkey King wasn't polite when Chu Feng's group paid them a visit. With a clang, he kicked open the Vermilion Gate. He had volunteered to take the lead because he wanted to show off and obtain the Xingyi breathing technique. In the past, this spineless fellow didn't have such guts and had always been famous for running away. How could the experts of the extraterrestrial civilization not be alarmed by such a huge commotion and the group's direct entry? Isn't this just a donkey running away? When did you become so bold to barge into the extraterrestrial civilization? A Beast King appeared with a mocking expression. He stood with his hands behind his back and blocked the Donkey King's path. With a swoosh, a large group of mutants appeared behind him and cut off the area after hearing the commotion. How come you're here? Have you defected to the human race? The Donkey King was astonished. This king is currently a protector of the extraterrestrial civilization. The Beast King replied. After transforming into human form, his stature was tall and straight. He appeared rather heroic and was much better than the wretched Donkey King. What era is this? Protector? The Donkey King's face was full of disdain as he stuck out his ears and bared his teeth. What do you know? This king was full of contempt. However, his tyrannical aura didn't last more than 3 seconds before withering away. That was because he saw Chu Feng's group rushing over. Beast King, is it humanoid? Chu Feng asked. It's not humanoid. It's completely edible and absolutely delicious. This is a wild goose. The spineless donkey enthusiastically reported. God damn it. The Wild Goose King was so frightened that he almost turned around and ran. He hated the Donkey King to the core. Who dares cause trouble here? The upper echelons of the Extraterrestrial Civilization Research Institute were alarmed. A king immediately appeared from the depths of the garden, followed by many important characters. Chu Feng was neither fast nor slow. He was calm and collected as he crossed the stone bridge and stood in the middle of the water pavilion, gazing at the opposite side. It was a female king. She couldn't be considered young, but her appearance had become more youthful after becoming a king. Moreover, she had taken good care of herself and looked to be in her 40s. One could see that she was quite beautiful when she was young. Now she was elegant and poised. Although she was middle-aged, she still retained her charm. Her name was Hui Yen, one of the top experts of the Extraterrestrial Civilization Research Institute. It's you, Chu Feng. What a rare guest to come to our Gusu city. Hui Yen wore a faint smile on her face. She recognized Chu Feng at a glance. He was calm and didn't seem afraid at all. Brother Chu, what a surprise. You've actually come to our Extraterrestrial Civilization Research Institute. Apologies for not going out to meet you, a young man in the crowd spoke. His name was Hu Lin, following his mother's surname. The Hu family was one of the most important members of the Extraterrestrial Civilization Research Institute. Hu Lin walked over with a smile on his face. He was fairly calm and didn't show the slightest bit of stage fright when facing the legendary demon King Chu. Brother Chu, I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. It's a pleasure to meet you today. He looked polite but was actually quite casual. Nowadays, Chu Feng was quite famous. Normally, it wouldn't be the turn for a youngster like him to receive him at a major corporation. It would definitely be those important members of the older generation who would personally receive him. Huolin took the initiative without any fear. The Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others sneered inwardly. They knew that the Extraterrestrial Civilization Research Institute had a deep background and was on good terms with the master of the Eight Visions Temple. Lu Tong had already informed them that the people from the Extraterrestrial Research Institute had contacted the master of the Eight Visions Temple and asked him to step in. They want to imitate the Archaic Alliance and use the Hollow Jade Temple Master to force Chu Feng to retreat? The Donkey King sneered inwardly. Apparently, the Extraterrestrial Research Institute didn't know what had happened in Hangzhou. Chu Feng had killed Lu Ziheng, destroyed the Zhang family, and opened the Archaic Alliance's treasury. That was because they had rushed here as soon as it happened. Chapter 274. Chu Feng had a smile on his face. This was quite interesting. The Extraterrestrial Research Institute was actually so arrogant after seeing him and didn't seem to realize that a disaster was about to befall them. This was especially true for a young man like Huolin, whom he had never heard of before. He had walked over and called him brother in such a casual manner. "Brother Chu, I'll introduce you to a few good friends from Gusu City." Huolin approached. He looked friendly but was actually quite self-centered. Finally, he retracted his hand just as he was about to pat Chu Feng's shoulder. In other places, even king-level entities would tremble after hearing the name Demon King Chu, but here, the people from the Extraterrestrial Research Institute were quite calm. Even a young man dared to claim a relationship with Chu Feng without any reverence. "Chu Feng, I've heard so much about you. You're like a thunderclap piercing my ears," a middle-aged man said with a smile. He also came forward and introduced himself as Yang Jingxian. The Yang family, like the Hua family, was an important member of the Extraterrestrial Research Institute. Following which, a number of old men walked over. They were the higher-ups of the Extraterrestrial Research Institute. They only greeted Chu Feng after Yang Jingxuan's introduction. These people wore smiles on their faces and maintained etiquette. However, it was obvious that they were confident and didn't seem to be afraid. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so calm after seeing Chu Feng. The female king, Huoyan, asked Chu Feng directly why he had come. The smile on Chu Feng's face grew wider. The people from the Extraterrestrial Research Institute were indeed pretending to be ignorant. It seemed they had nothing to fear. "Brother Chu, you're naturally an honored guest. Please come in." Huolin spoke once again and warmly greeted Chu Feng, gesturing for him to walk into the depths of the garden. Chu Feng didn't move and only glanced at the people present. "Brother Chu, let's go." Huolin walked over and placed his hand on Chu Feng's shoulder. Thump! At this moment, Chu Feng's shoulder began to glow. Huolin's entire body was sent flying and hung on a distant pavilion. His face was deathly pale and blood was seeping out from the corner of his mouth. It was too sudden. "Brother Chu Feng, I don't think it's a good idea to hurt people in the extraterrestrial civilization." Yang Jingxian looked unhappy. "Chu Feng, what is the meaning of this?" Huoyan asked coldly. Huolin was her own son, so she followed her maternal instincts. Her expression didn't look too good. Chu Feng said, "What I want to say is that you young people from the Extraterrestrial Research Institute have too much confidence and are too casual. Even kings don't dare to put their hands on my shoulders. He's just being friendly. Don't you think it's unreasonable for you to hurt him like this?" Huoyan's voice was slightly cold. "I don't know him well. Which king do you think can be casually patted on the shoulder?" Chu Feng was still smiling. "It's just a misunderstanding. Little brother Chu Feng is definitely an honored guest of our Extraterrestrial Civilization Institute. Your presence brings light to our humble abode. Please, come in." The few old men tried to smooth things over. They chuckled and invited Chu Feng inside. Huolin was a mutant. Although he was injured and frightened, he still jumped down from the pavilion with a cold glint in his eyes. He looked at Chu Feng's back in anger. What's so great about him? He went to the Tonggu Alliance with so many people, but in the end, he still retreated with his tail between his legs. He came to our extraterrestrial research institute and behaved atrociously. Does he really think we're that easy to bully? Although it was barely audible, everyone present was an expert, so they could naturally hear it. Chu Feng stopped abruptly. He didn't turn around and said, "How frivolous of the young. You young people here can't take this lying down." Little brother Chu Feng, don't take it to heart. Who hasn't been around his age before? Young people are all like this. Don't lower yourself to his level, one of the old men said. Let's go, brother Chu. Another old man also tried to persuade him, afraid that things would turn ugly. Although they had their own reasons, they didn't want to offend Chu Feng too much. Although Huolin didn't dare say anything else, he was obviously unsatisfied. You're very dissatisfied and hostile toward me? Chu Feng looked at him. Huolin revealed a disdainful expression and said, You speak as if you're so amazing. If you're really so awe-inspiring, how could you have suffered at the Tonggu Alliance? He had once heard Zhang Qing say that Chu Feng was very unbearable and that everyone in their circle knew about it. At that time, Zhang Qing said that Demon King Chu was nothing. The Zhang family immediately contacted the Hollow Jade Temple Master and suppressed Chu Feng on the spot, forcing him to retreat with his tail between his legs. He didn't even dare to say a word. Huolin felt that since his family could speak to the Eight Visions Temple and wasn't afraid of Chu Feng, they could naturally suppress him until he had no temper. Our extraterrestrial research institute doesn't cause trouble, but we're not afraid of it either, Huolin said coldly. Enough, an old man berated. Ah, are you provoking me? Chu Feng turned around and pressed his hand forward. A faint golden light circulated around him as terrifying energy surged forth. You! Huoyen was shocked and hurriedly tried to block him. However, Chu Feng's strength was unyielding and ferocious. His movements were even faster than hers. The moment his palm seal appeared, a torrential beam of energy shot forth. It was unstoppable. Huolin was sent flying like a rag doll and disintegrated in mid-air. His face was full of terror. With a buzzing sound, Huoyen leapt into the air with all her might. She used both hands to hold down the upper half of Huolin's body and poured in vigorous life energy with all her might. She did her best to dissolve the palm energy left behind by Chu Feng and prevented Huolin's upper body from disintegrating. However, there were many frightening cracks on the surface of his body. As for the lower half of his body, it had just exploded. Huoyen couldn't suppress it in time and thus couldn't stop it. Chu Feng, you've gone too far. How dare you come to our extraterrestrial research institute to kill people? Huoyen was shocked and furious. Huolin was her son. She had temporarily protected Huolin's life, but losing the lower half of his body meant that he would forever be crippled. This caused her eyes to turn red. Gone too far? Why didn't you think of these words when you sent people to kill me and surrounded me with the beast rays? Chu Feng calmly asked. Don't speak nonsense. Huoyen denied. The elders had a bad premonition and hurriedly tried to dissuade him. One of them said, It's all a misunderstanding. Chu Feng, don't be angry. Sit down and talk. This was a beautiful garden with many pavilions. They wanted to invite Chu Feng to sit down and talk with him to avoid conflict. At the same time, one of the elders wanted to contact the master of the Eight Visions Temple and ask him to suppress Chu Feng. Otherwise, something big would happen today. You retreated from the Archaic Alliance and didn't dare to act presumptuously. Why did you dare come to our extraterrestrial research institute to act violently? After Huolin was crippled, his eyes were spewing fire. He was incomparably paranoid and wanted an answer. At this time, the Black Yak laughed loudly and said, Bragging will kill you. That Zhang Qing from your small circle has already been beheaded. His guts are simply too great. It was at this time that someone rushed into the garden and reported to the important characters present. After seeing Chu Feng, that person staggered in fright and almost fell down. Several pieces of paper appeared in the hands of the elders and Huiyan. They were all shocked and looked up at Chu Feng. You destroyed the Zhang family, killed Lu Ziheng and destroyed the Archaic Alliance's treasury? Huiyan's voice was trembling. Everyone at the scene took a step back after hearing this. All of them turned pale as they felt that things were far from good. Hadn't the master of the Hollow Jade Temple appeared to suppress this demon? How could such a thing happen? Huolin revealed a terrified expression. This was completely different from what he had expected. Didn't Zhang Qing say that the Hollow Jade Temple and the Eight Visions Temple were enough to suppress Demon King Chu? But in the end, the Zhang family was destroyed. He couldn't help but tremble as he recalled his words and actions just now. At this time, Yang Jingxian could no longer remain calm. The other elders could no longer maintain their composure. It was as though their spines had been broken. All of them felt cold from head to toe. Just a while ago, they were still calm and collected. They didn't seem to fear Demon King Chu at all. But now it was completely different. The news from the Archaic Alliance was explosive and caused their hair to stand on end. Brother Chu, please listen to our explanation. One of the elders bowed with his hands clasped in front. His forehead was drenched in cold sweat as he lowered his stance. He was afraid that Chu Feng would start a massacre at the slightest disagreement. Why did you attack me? Chu Feng asked. The human kings from the corporations were even more vicious than before. He didn't understand how he had offended them. The elders were all drenched in cold sweat. Someone called the master of the Eight Visions Temple. Someone else braced himself and explained, everything is for self-preservation. The outer realm entities will descend sooner or later. We want to obtain a peerless breathing technique and occupy a famed mountain to establish ourselves. Greed, Chu Feng said coldly. He then slapped out with a palm toward Huolin. You dare injure my son? Huiyan retreated anxiously. She was also terrified and no longer as calm as before. Why wouldn't I dare? I'll even kill you. Don't think I didn't recognize that you were one of the human kings who surrounded me in armor, Chu Feng said coldly. Ever since he saw Huiyan rescue Huolin and release her aura, Chu Feng knew that Huiyan was one of the human kings who surrounded him that night. No. Huolin was terrified while Huiyan screamed. But it was useless. Huolin was crushed into pieces by Chu Feng's palm strike. Huiyan was temporarily able to resist the energy waves, but Huolin, whom she was carrying, couldn't. He died immediately. It's your turn. Chu Feng was surging with killing intent. He took a step forward and moved instead of just standing in place. Little dog, I'll fight it out with you. Give me back my son's life. Huiyan went berserk. Little brother Chu Feng, please stop. The Eight Visions Temple Master wants to talk to you. An old man shouted anxiously from behind. His face was deathly pale and without a trace of blood. In truth, the upper echelons of the Extraterrestrial Research Institute were panicking. Chu Feng felt a surge of anger in his chest after hearing this. The Hollow Jade Temple Master had stopped him when he visited the Archaic Alliance, and the Eight Visions Temple Master had stood up for him after arriving at the Extraterrestrial Research Institute. One had to know that the Archaic Alliance and the Extraterrestrial Research Institute had both wanted to kill him. They had even sent out king-level experts to hunt him down. They were his mortal enemies. Let me kill someone first before talking to him, Chu Feng replied. Boom. His fist imprints erupted. The demon ox fist in his left hand and the demon flood dragon fist in his right shot through the air. The images of an ancient ox and flood dragon appeared and tore apart the starry skies. Thump! How could Huiyan block this attack? Her entire body was sent flying by Chu Feng's furious attack. Then, cracks spread all over her body as if she were a porcelain vase that had suffered a heavy blow. In the end, she exploded with a pop and turned into a cloud of blood mist. Absolute silence. Everyone at the Extraterrestrial Research Institute felt a chill run down their spine. Sigh, I'm angry. I shouldn't have done this. Chu Feng shook his head and blamed himself. The people at the Extraterrestrial Research Institute felt the tension in the air lessen. However, Chu Feng's next words caused them to tense up again. I can kill the enemy, but my heart must be calm and radiant, Chu Feng muttered to himself as he circulated his breathing technique. Very soon, his body began to emit a holy aura. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.